Golden State never really had a handle on this game. They came out early, flagrant foul on Draymond Green, cut it to a very competitive game at the end of the three quarters, and they came out not ready to start the fourth quarter. It was inexcusable. And they lose 115-107. A disaster of a fourth quarter, and the Warriors are hoping that Game 7 won't end as a disaster of a series.
I mean, just a shocking, really deflating Game 6 loss by the Golden State Warriors at Chase Center. The final score tonight ended up not being very close. Even though the final score was only 8 points, the separation, the Warriors at one point down 17 in the fourth quarter. They get absolutely dominated and run out of gas, quite frankly, in the second half. And we're here to try and make some sense of it before the Golden State Warriors have to go back to Houston in less than 48 hours and play the Rockets at the Toyota Center down south for Game 7. This is Warriors Wrap-Up. Evan Giddings alongside Mark Grandy with you here on 95.7 The Game. We are taking your calls. We are getting you into this conversation, one that I don't think, Grandy, we expected to be having after this game. You and I felt both pretty confident that the Warriors would be able to take care of business in 6. Obviously, they did not, and we're going to spend a lot of time tonight trying to figure out why.
Yeah, this series for the most part had gone according to plan. I think the way you and I and most Warrior fans probably felt. I know there was a hope, and I had a hope that they'd be able to close it out in 5, but it's always difficult to close out a team on the road. But we both picked Warriors in 6. We expected a 3-2 series lead for the Warriors coming into this game.
Yep.
And you don't expect it to be easy, but you expect this veteran Warriors team who's been through battles like this countless times to be able to close the door at home. And they were in position to do so. They weren't playing great by any stretch through 3 quarters, but as you heard Tim Roy say there on the final call, the voice of the Warriors here on 95.7 The Game, it was a 2-point game after 3. Rockets led by 2. Going into the fourth, the Warriors probably felt pretty good about their chances, and then a 20-5 Houston burst out of the fourth quarter to begin the fourth quarter, and it wasn't really like it was an offensive explosion. They scored those 20 points over 8 minutes. It was more so what the Warriors did or couldn't do on offense. Only 5 points in the first 8 minutes of the fourth quarter. They go 1 for their first 15 from the field in the fourth, and it took what I felt was going to be a game that came down to the final couple of minutes, and it essentially ended the game with like 4 or 5 minutes left. The Warriors are waving the white flag. They probably should have done it earlier because now you got to get ready for a Game 7 when Steph and Jimmy and all these guys are playing 40-plus minutes. Shocking. You're right. It was a shocking result. Maybe not necessarily that they lost, because I think it was going to be a competitive game, but the way in which they lost, specifically in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, as we're watching it unfold, like you can understand fully why they lost this game.
Oh, yeah.
But coming in, based on, I think, everything we had assumed, and yes, they put a lot of pressure on themselves based on essentially punting in Game 5. They didn't expend themselves. They pulled the starters with about 6 minutes left in that third quarter. Tonight, you're right, they probably left them in a little bit too long, but 5 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left is about the time when they pulled them. Not that big of a deal to me, but to your point about when this game flipped, I mean, the Warriors were within an earshot going into the fourth.
Yep.
Curry foul baits Tari Eason right at the end of the third quarter, gets 2 out of the 3 free throws to make it a 2-point game. Him, along with Jimmy Butler, had 48 points combined through 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden, the lights just got turned off. The Warriors missed 16 of their first 18 shots going into that fourth quarter. At one point, they missed 14 shots in a row. They only got, during a 6.5-minute period, 3 points at the free throw line. And in the meanwhile, obviously Houston basically just walked the Warriors down, and they tried everything. Golden State did. They tried to hack a Steven Adams. It worked once, then it worked 2 other times, and then it didn't, because the Houston Rockets got offensive rebounds, in which Şengün just outworked both Moses Moody and Draymond Green for those second-chance opportunities. And I thought the Warriors, especially their older players in this game, Grandy, just ran out of gas. And now the biggest question is, how much do they have left in the tank for obviously a younger, sprier, faster, longer Houston Rockets team? it's kind of your worst nightmare going into Game 7.
Absolutely. Steph and Jimmy were amazing through three quarters. You mentioned the numbers. I mean, they were the Warriors' offense through three quarters. Not really many others came along for the ride. Moses Moody had himself a pretty good first half. Podziemski, after he was scoreless in the first half, didn't start, by the way, kind of a surprise change to the starting lineup. The Warriors went with Gary Payton II in the starting lineup for Brandon Podziemski. Hield stayed in the lineup for Moses Moody, as has been the case. The idea from Steve Kerr to plant GP2 on Fred VanVleet because he's really hurt the Warriors, that has kind of been what has turned this series. Fred VanVleet, though, shrugged off GP2 and scored 29 points to lead the way, made 6 more threes. He was efficient as hell from the field, got to the line 9 times as well, so that did not work. Don't know if that maybe messed with Podziemski's offensive rhythm. He bounced back with a good third quarter, but for the most part, through the first 3, Steph and Jimmy were great enough to keep the Warriors close. But then you mentioned they ran out of gas, and there was no one else that was there to pick up the slack, as has kind of been the case for the Warriors. If Steph and Jimmy are not playing at least good basketball, both of them, this Warrior team really struggles to score. And that was the case in the fourth quarter. The final numbers for the fourth don't look terrible. The Warriors scored 23 points in the fourth.
Overhit.
They were
they overcovered in this game.
But essentially just because of the bench squad. Like,
yes.
you waved the white flag. The bench players came in. Pat Spencer scored 6 points quickly. Guy Santos had an easy bucket. You had some garbage time points that made the final numbers on the fourth quarter look at least respectable. But that fourth quarter, specifically the first 8 minutes of that fourth quarter, when they went 1 for 15 from the field, and there's a lot of ugly stretches this team has played this year, but specifically when both Steph and Jimmy are on the floor, that 8-minute stretch might be the ugliest basketball this team has played.
Yeah, and it's absolutely been the ugliest basketball they've played in a single quarter against even the Houston Rockets this season. A lot's been made about the lack of scoring. For example, the first 3 games of the series, they only mustered 18 points in the first 3 opening periods of those games. Even going back to the regular season, I was looking at some of the quarter splits. The fewest points they've scored in a quarter against Houston this year was 18 across all regular season and postseason games. You look at when they pulled the starters with about 2:50 left, they had 13 on the board.
Yep.
And that was a fourth quarter from hell. I mean, they couldn't get a rebound. They were getting beat to 50-50 balls. Jimmy Butler goes 0 of 5, 0 of 4 from 3 in the fourth quarter. Steph goes 1 of 7, 1 of 5 from 3 in the fourth quarter. And I can't necessarily blame them for taking that amount of shots because no one else was willing to, number 1, take them, number 2, hit them. Those guys were going to basically carry this team to victory. And at 37 and 35 years of age, they just ran out of gas. And look, on the other side, you have to give a lot of credit to what Houston did. I thought that, number 1, they played a smart game in the first half. I thought that while the Warriors had some sloppy turnovers, you do have to credit some of the defense of Houston, who forced 10 turnovers in the first half, which I thought largely kept them in it. And then they hit a ton of shots. Like, Fred VanVleet, and I apologized a couple games ago, I'll continue to do so, was sensational in this game. Şengün has probably been the most consistent player throughout this entire series, with Dylan Brooks kind of having a no-show due to foul trouble in this game. And then Steven Adams, you said it before we came on, and I totally agree. While he was, the best player in this game, you can make a case he's been the most impactful or swing player in this entire series, because the Warriors could not figure out their double big lineup, especially when they went to his zone. So Adams and VanVleet essentially won them this basketball game.
Yeah, the Rockets have now outscored the Warriors by, let's do this quick math, 6 plus the 8, 14 points in this series. Rockets are up by 14 points on the Warriors over 6 games in this series. Steven Adams across those 6 games of the series is a plus 53. So, you calling him the swing guy, it is 100% accurate. When he has been on the floor, the Rockets have thoroughly outplayed the Warriors, and I thought Steven Adams was the best player on the floor in this game. And it goes so much deeper than just the statistics. And his statistics were boosted by the Warriors going to the hack Adams strategy multiple times in the second half. He finishes with 17 points, but 9 of those 17 were from the free throw line, all all on Hack and Adams situations. Only had 5 rebounds. How could a guy with 17 and 5 and all of those points basically handed to him from the charity stripe, how can he be the best player on the floor? Well, it's because when he was out there, the Warriors could not grab a rebound, offensive or defensive, whether he was getting them or not. He was just dealing with 2 Warriors bodies, allowing others to sneak in and grab those rebounds. Şengün was, for the most part, the beneficiary with 14 rebounds there. He was great defensively, both at the rim. He had just... how many blocks did he have in this game?
3.
He had 3 blocks, but he affected so many more shots around the rim. And, I mean, I feel like I need like maybe 7, 8 fingers to count the number of times that he took away passing lanes inside. He was amazing in this game. And you don't really think about Steven Adams as this like amazing defender, as this rim protector, as this guy who's going to, defend the entire paint. But I thought he was amazing defensively in this game and took away nearly everything the Warriors could potentially do inside. You mentioned the shot attempts for the Warriors in the fourth quarter. Steph, 1 for 7 from deep in the fourth. Jimmy 0 for 4 from deep in the fourth. So much of what the Warriors had to do was just hoist from outside because they could not get anything inside. The Warriors put up 90 shots in this game. 49 were from deep. And I know so many Warrior fans are sitting there watching this game ripping their hair out because they're screaming, go inside, go inside. You made 15 of 49 threes. That's about 30% from deep. And I hear you, but all I'm going to say is it might not show up on the stat sheet, but Steven Adams took away so much on the interior. The Warriors tested him over and over and over again, and he very consistently beat them on the inside. So, I mean, I tip my cap to Steven Adams. I thought he was the best player in this game and reason number 1 why the Rockets are headed back to Houston for Game 7.
Yeah, 888-957-9570 is the number. This is Warriors Wrap Up here on 95.7 The Game. My name is Evan Giddings. That is Mark Grandy. We're taking your calls for as long as you want. We got text messages filing in on the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line already. 209, Warriors in trouble. Wolves beat Warriors pretty easily. That's if they get to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They still have to go back and win a Game 7 on shorter rest on the road. And while the Warriors are equipped to do it and have done it in the past, they're on the verge of becoming the 14th team in NBA history to blow a 3-1 lead, something they obviously did in the 2016 finals.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we got so much to talk about in this game, but what do you think the opening spread is, the line for Game 7 on Sunday? 5:30 Pacific time tip in Houston.
Well, Houston's got to be favored. I would guess probably swung, what was it today, 4?
5.5.
I would say Houston -4.
Houston's favored by 3 is currently what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So and look, I mean, they should be, like, especially after this game.
Favored, no doubt.
I think they were favored by about that margin in Game 5. Am I not correct?
Right around there.
Yeah. So look, it's. And they came out and they smoked the Warriors. Then Houston's going to have to earn it. They're going to have to win 3 straight games in the playoffs, which is not an easy thing to do. But I think this game leaves obviously a lot of sour tastes in people's mouths because of really the lack of help beyond Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. And while I think that defensively they got exposed a little bit, you can easily make the case that they lost this game just because they couldn't get a basket. Like they could not score the basketball consistently, even when they were forcing Houston, or even when they got out on the break. They got some fast break opportunities. Even when they forced Houston to take the ball out of the basket, this game just did not have any sort of flow for the Golden State Warriors, and that's evident by 3 different quarters where the Rockets scored 28, 33, and then 29. Not something we're accustomed to seeing from a team that felt like after 3 games they could barely scrape 100.
Yeah. I thought the offense for the Warriors tonight, and this has largely been the case because their others have been pretty inconsistent, right? You have stretches of Pajemski being really good. You have stretches of Moody shooting 40% from deep. Buddy Hield's had a couple of good games this series. But when the others are not really performing at any consistent level, the Warriors' offense is, you hope Steph just goes nuclear and gives you 35 or 40. You hope he makes 8 or more threes from deep. You hope Jimmy Butler tricks defenses into fouling him and gets to the free throw line 15 times. And then you just hope to run and push the tempo. And the Warriors tried to do that today. I mean, they had 19 points on the fast break, but it was not enough to make up for their deficiencies elsewhere. Houston missed fewer free throws. Houston turned the ball over fewer times today than in the past. And they forced a decent number of Warriors turnovers as well. The Warriors turned the ball over 17 times, turns into 22 Houston points off turnovers. What had helped the Warriors in past games this series hurt them today, and that's a big reason why Houston is even up the series.
Yeah, and look, it was a game that, as far as coaching is concerned, I don't think Ime Udoka did anything differently than he's done the first 5 games of the series. And I think just what we've seen is the Warriors slowly lose this war of attrition, and Kerr actually went a little bit older to begin this basketball game by inserting Gary Payton II into the starting lineup for Brandon Podziemski. I thought in general, the Warriors' young players, up until the third quarter, because that's when Pods erupted a little bit, Moody had some nice flashes off the bench. I think their young players did look not ready for the moment, and they looked like a group that had played less playoff basketball than what Houston had been forced to play through the first 5 games. But overall, like his adjustments to what Houston was throwing at them, largely where they were placing Şengün, it just didn't work. Yeah. And they're a team that is undersized, that is small. That's what they do. And I think that Kerr obviously is going to have a lot to try and figure out between now and Game 7, because while I thought that, for example, in Game 3, he pressed probably every single button correctly to help them get that win without Jimmy Butler, which now is looking absolutely huge. But tonight, I don't think that Kerr had a particularly great game. I'm not really sure sometimes what he was supposed to do, because, for example, like I thought one thing that he did do well was he left Curry in with 3 fouls, and then Curry goes on an 11-0 run by himself to help get them into this game by half. But he had no answer for Steven Adams. All he could do was hack him. They weren't able to rebound the basketball. Everything they did against the Rockets zone didn't seem to work because they weren't hitting any of their threes. They've now marked shot over the last 4 games from three-point range. They have shot 33.1% from three-point range. So they have not been able to consistently hit threes. Even Steph Curry tonight hoisted 16 of them. I thought they generated some good looks, but overall they just were not able to go down. And from a coaching perspective, he did not help his team tonight.
No, I don't think so either. I think this game was pretty simple. The Rockets, against the half-court defense, the Rockets consistently got better, higher quality looks than the Warriors did. And sometimes you just have amazing shot making like Steph Curry and an amazing play from Jimmy Butler, and you can overcome that. But you did not get that consistently enough, and as a result, you lose. I was a little confused by the change to the starting lineup. GP2 in for Brandon Podziemski. I got the thought process in terms of trying to limit Fred VanVleet, because he has been a guy that's really hurt you the last couple of games, but he still put up 29 points, was 7 of 13 from the field, 6 of 9 from downtown, also 8 rebounds and 8 assists. I mean, he was absolutely incredible in this game and really has been amazing for the second half of this series. But I think when you are offensively challenged like the Warriors and you are going up against a really good defense like Houston, I think you need to lean a little bit more into your shooting, and not as if Podziemski is an elite shooter by any stretch, but he's definitely a better shooter than Gary Payton II is. And I know that he was scoreless in the first half. He did bounce back and had a really solid third quarter. You mentioned the 11-0 Steph run towards the end of the third. That was huge, of course, but it was largely Podziemski scoring early in the third that kind of stabilized the Warriors and got them within, keeping it around a 7-8 point game instead of falling behind by as many as 16. So it's really easy to second guess now, but I thought the GP2 in for Podziemski in the starting lineup switch, I was confused to begin the game, and then what we saw in the game, you're right, clearly now it seems like the wrong move, because the Warriors offense just was not good enough, and you needed you needed some shooting in there, and they're not guarding Draymond Green. That's what allowed Steven Adams to stay on the floor, because he's just hanging out in the paint. Draymond is scared to shoot. He took a couple of threes, as he generally does, but he's wide open from 15 feet and refuses to shoot. Steven Adams then can just play off of him and take everything away inside. You have to stack the floor with shooting, and you're right, the Warriors don't have a ton of options, especially when Buddy Hield goes scoreless in this game. But considering what their options are, Podziemski is one of your best options from outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because GP2, I think, was their only positive player after the first quarter. By the way, Draymond was awful tonight. He's looked awful for 2 straight games. I thought that defensively he did not offer much rim protection whatsoever, and he looks like a guy that's been kind of worn down over 6 games against, to be fair, 2 7-footers that are 20, if not 40 pounds in the case of Adams, above him. But I thought he looked old tonight. It took 3 quarters for Jimmy and Curry to look old. I thought Green looked old right out of the gate. And if he's playing like that, they're going to struggle defensively. And he's kind of the tone setter on that end. And look, like, even on the offensive side of things, you're right. They do not guard him. And so others need to hit shots. And even when Curry was getting double-teamed and creating some open looks, Moody hit enough of them when he got in. But in the first half, I think he missed his first. Pods could not hit anything in the first half. Buddy Hield was 0 of 4 from 3. Jimmy didn't start hoisting until the 4th, so he's off the hook. But GP2 missed a couple of open corner shots. Like Quentin Post, I thought, got played off the floor again tonight. And while he had a couple of fouls that were necessary, he got abused and ended up pretty much being in foul trouble this entire game. So, look, everybody didn't play well tonight. I thought on defense it might have started with Draymond. On the offensive side, it was everybody not with the number 30 or number 10 on their backs.
Yeah, and I mean, you threw out a couple of names like a GP2, and I mean, I guess you throw Buddy Hield in there, and even a Quentin Post, and a Moses Moody, and frankly, a Podziemski as well. And I mean, Draymond is the number 1 guy in this category, as we've talked about. They're not even guarding him. The Rockets would much rather give up a wide-open 3 to any of those guys than a contested 3 to Steph. And that's just the reality of the way that the Rockets are defending the Warriors. They are not guarding Draymond. They are not really guarding They're not guarding GP2 at the perimeter. They are aware of Moody and Podziemski, and they're definitely aware of Hield at the 3-point line. But if it came down to an open 3 for any of those guys versus a Steph contested 3, they would much rather allow the open 3s for their other guys. If it gets to a point where Hield is open in the corner, and he's in the right corner, Curry's on the right wing, and you're guarding Curry in the right wing, you have been told, don't help off Curry, let Buddy take that open corner 3, because if you help and you race out to Buddy Hield, guess what? Smart play for him, pump fake or draw on the defense, and then pass it to Steph, and he has an open right wing 3. So if those others are not hitting, and Steph isn't going nuclear and scoring 40 on tough shot after tough shot after tough shot, the Warriors' offense is really, really hard-pressed to, at any kind of consistent level, get good looks.
I'm with you. All right, let's open up the phone lines. It's been long enough. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings, Mark Grandy, Warriors wrap up. The Warriors lose Game 6 at home. A second closeout opportunity for them. 115-107. They'll go back to Houston. 5:30 tip will be the time, Pacific time. Obviously, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 local in Houston at the Toyota Center for Game 7, do-or-die elimination officially for Golden State. Let's go to Zach in Santa Rosa. Zach, get us started here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on?
Yeah, how are we doing, guys? Thanks for having me on. I need to just talk about Steve Kerr for a minute. I think it's time that this fan base starts to hold him accountable. I think we haven't done that for years now, and I think it's time that we really hold him accountable here, because he does not put us in the best position to win, rarely ever. He's completely getting out-coached. Tonight, Ime Udoka ran the 2 big lineup, and it's not like we have much of an answer for it anyways, but Kevon Looney playing 2 minutes is absolute malpractice. I mean, he's not that he's going to do a ton, but he's our best chance to actually maybe getting some rebounds, because we've seen it in the past. Buddy Hield needs to be getting no minutes. I have no clue. That dude does absolutely nothing when he's out there. I mean, he can't defend. Right now, he really can't shoot. He's lazy. He can't do much. Same thing with Quentin Post. I mean, he's utterly useless when he's out there. And I think Game 5 is going to haunt Steve Kerr. I think he threw in the towel way too early. He waved the white flag when we were down by 13 with only 6 minutes left. A very doable comeback, and his mindset was just, we're going to win Game 6. And look how that's working for him. So Game 5 is going to haunt Steve Kerr for a while. And it rightfully should, because he should have put the starters back in. I mean, we were down 13 with 6 minutes to go tonight, and he left them in. I don't know what he's doing. He's very inconsistent. So Steve Kerr needs to be held accountable, and he's ruined this for us. It's not purely his fault, though, but he's a big reason.
Yeah, look, I think it's a situation, Grandy, where you lose games like this following Game 5. People are pissed, and there's so many different things to throw at the wall. The head coach is the first one whose head is always on the chopping block. I'm going to be honest. Was Steve Kerr great in this game? Obviously not. I don't think anybody was outside of maybe a couple of players, and that was only for a period of the game, because by the end of the game, everybody stunk. But I'm not necessarily sure, and I thought the caller actually pointed it out early in the call. What was he to do against this too big lineup? I thought he played as many cards as he could against Adams. Kevon Looney, I'm sorry, he has not proven himself to be an answer.
He's a shell of himself.
He's not the Kevon Looney of 2022.
No, even 2023.
Trace Jackson-Davis is not the rookie that he was even last year. And I just don't think that they have someone on this roster that is capable of going toe-to-toe alongside Draymond while also being somewhat of an offensive threat, because remember, the whole reason why those guys aren't playing is because they aren't guarded on the other end, while Houston is still able to get what they want offensively. So it's a moot point. I think Kerr is basically playing, at least the last two games, with his hand tied behind his back. And that's why he's trying to throw his veterans in. I think Gary Payton II tonight was a mistake, but to be fair, he only played 19 minutes. Buddy Hield, yes, he stunk. He only played 16 minutes in this game. And I'm just not sure that someone like Kevon Looney against Adams, who, by the way, he has played against in this series and looked outmatched, is going to change what we saw tonight on the boards.
The Rockets have played that three big lineup, and I know most people call it the two big lineup, but they also throw Jabari Smith in there. So they go 6'10", 6'11", 6'11", like legitimately from 3 through 5. But the two big guys specifically are Şengün and Adams. They've used that in all 6 games of this series. Like, the Warriors built a 3-1 series lead, including one of those wins without Jimmy Butler, still against that three big lineup. What has the adjustment been for Ime Udoka? Maybe leaning into Steven Adams more, but that was obvious. I mean, Steven Adams through the first 3, 4, 5 games of this series was still pretty clearly one of the best players for the Rockets. Like, it was so much so that leading into Game 5 in Houston, all the Rockets fans were begging Udoka to start Steven Adams and bench Jalen Green, and he didn't. He stuck with Jalen Green. And Rockets fans at the time were real upset at Udoka for not making that change. Now, he has played him more minutes, so if you want to consider that an adjustment, sure, go ahead, be my guest, but that was obvious. That's been in front of him. The Warriors knew that was coming. I'm with you. I don't think that Kevon Looney is the answer. Now, one thing that I will agree with the caller with is I think the Warriors are going to look back at this series and really, really regret the effort they put forth in Game 5. I'm not necessarily blaming it on Kerr like the caller did in terms of not bringing Steph and company back in once the bench made that somewhat competitive in the fourth. I'm more so pointing to the effort the Warriors began that game with. It was over at halftime. It was over before halftime.
I thought it was over in the first quarter.
Probably. And they put all of their eggs in this Game 6 basket, and when you put all of your eggs in a single game like this, it's like the play-in game. You open yourself up to variability. You have a bad shooting night. Fred VanVleet scores nearly 30 points. Steven Adams plays the game of his life, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. And maybe that was the reality the Warriors were facing because of their age. They felt like it was worth the risk in terms of getting their guys more physically ready for this game and not coming out like guns blazing in Game 5. But if they don't come out and win Game 7 in Houston, I think they're going to be pointing at the way that they just kind of simply punted on Game 5 as a major, major, major mistake.
I guess I don't look at it like that because I didn't think that they were going to win Game 5 even if they chased it. Like that team, and what we're learning about this team is that they are Big Three dependent. Like they just are, and maybe that's where Kerr owns some blame, and it's more so looking at the totality of the season, like the fact that the younger players on this team are not yet ready to step into roles that are of a Robin or an Alfred on a night like this, where you need a third guy, like you need a third scorer. And the fact that the Warriors have not been able to get a player consistently to the point where they can help you do that, that is on the coaching staff. But as far as in-game adjustments or guys in Game 5 not being ready to play, like to me that's on the players. And I just don't think that they were going to come out and win that game anyways. And then tonight, you might have been even more gassed and you might have got blown off your home floor. But I do agree with you that you're right. Like, they circled this game as the one to get, and the fact that they couldn't get it and also chased it really sets them behind the 8 ball for a Game 7 on Sunday.
Yeah. They're in a real bad spot now. All
right, let's go to Jose in Alameda. Jose in Alameda, you're up next on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on, man?
Hey, Jose in Mountain View?
Or Jose in Mountain View. Sorry about that. What's up, man?
Oh, okay. No worries. Sorry. Hey, there's so many Jose's. I figured to ask.
You're good.
So here's the thing. I hate to admit it, but it's just when you do the matchups, we don't have the same talent. These are 22-year-old guys who have a skill set, and they're starting to figure out the Warriors, and they only have Jimmy and they only have Steph. If we can just leave it to those two, everyone else on that team, our team, is inconsistent. We don't have the same length or height or talent, and that's an issue. So I think I'm hoping we win Game 7. I don't think we will, but I'm hoping we do. Either way, it would be a tough matchup with Minnesota, but here's the thing. This should be the wake-up call so that we could try and figure out how else to play ball, because the way it's working out right now, this isn't going to work. And that's not just on Steve Kerr. That's on the organization, and it would have helped to have had someone maybe like a Clay who could shoot the mid-range, or like a Livingston, but we don't have those players. We opted to go all in with Draymond and look at where we're at. No one wants to look at that reality, and I've always thought that we've ignored it for what it is, but once you started getting that flagrant foul early on in the game, I think that set the tone, because then he had to play not like himself, but more reserved, and that affected the team big time. So these adjustments come with what we have. There's not that many options left, and we're not even playing Kuminga. In the past, we would have an all-in cast of characters come in and give you a few minutes of a good run, including Santos, right, and Trace Jackson-Davis. But we're not even using them the way we did before, and I have to question why. Thanks for taking my call.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for the call. I mean, look, in the playoffs, rotations tighten, they shorten. It was interesting. Like we were talking today on Standing Grew, and there was someone who called in and felt like they should actually be playing a rotation similar to what they started the season with, like a 13-man or 12-man rotation. And while I understand the sentiment, like you're giving Butler and Curry and Draymond, specifically the older players, more rest, it's the chicken and the egg thing. Like the Warriors got a 3-1 series lead because they rode their vets, and they rode a tightened 8 to 9-man rotation. Conversely, they have lost the last 2 games, I think, because they rode those guys so hard and they're starting to show their age. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. To me, I can't look at this game and say, all right, well, Looney's the difference here, or Trace Jackson-Davis is here, or Pat Spencer is the difference here. If Draymond Green is getting outplayed by Alperen Şengün, which he did not at the end of Game 4, which turned out to be the biggest play of that game, if Jimmy Butler had an extra set of, Energizer bunny batteries that could help him through the fourth quarter like he played the first 3, same for Steph Curry, we might be talking about a win. But at the end of the day, you're going to live and die with those players. And Kerr did not coach perfectly in this game. I'm not absolving him of blame, because I do think that as the head coach of this team, you got to wear the fact that you now have to go back to Houston. However, I don't think he did much differently.
Yeah.
And we got to hit a break here. We'll come back on the other side, keep discussing it and taking your phone calls as well. 888-957-9570 is the number. We're back after this on Warriors Wrap Up.
Curry coming down, felt the contact, went up and just got the shot off on the go and kissed it in off the glass.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, that's when things looked attainable. Obviously, in the first half, things were not great for Golden State. It felt like they were kind of always chasing Houston. The most they led was by 2 in this game. The most they trailed by was 17, but that was towards the end of the second quarter when Curry began his personal 11-0 run that drew them actually even at 46 with 1:58 left after a transition 3 by Steph, and then they go into the half down 5, and after the third quarter, they just got to get boat raced. But we're here to talk about it. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings, Mark Randy, Warriors lose Game 6 at home, 115-107 to the Houston Rockets. And now they got to play on Sunday for their season. And no excuses. I mean, this is a 3-1 series lead. They're on the verge of becoming an historic playoff team, and not in a good way.
Yeah. 13 teams have ever coming back from down 3-1, and the Warriors or the Rockets are damn near close to becoming the 14th team to do it. The Warriors would be one of a couple of teams that have given up multiple 3-1 leads. The Suns have done it a couple of times. The Clippers have done it a couple of times. I'll have to comb through all the others. The Sixers have done it a couple of times. Don't know how many others have done it multiple times, but the Warriors are in danger of joining that list. One moment that we haven't brought up that I think really, really signifies just the kind of game this one was after 3, Warriors get within 2, right? They put together a nice run to close the third quarter. There was Curry. He had 4 points in the final minute of the third, had a layup, and then drew a foul, had Eason draw a foul on him on a corner 3, made 2 of the 3 free throws. Warriors get within 2 going into the fourth. First play of the fourth quarter, Houston has the ball. Seems like they catch the Warriors napping. They were trying to set up their zone. Steph and GP2 kind of confused on who was guarding Fred VanVleet. VanVleet sneaks along the left wing, hits a 3, plus the foul on GP2, who was late closing out. I think GP2 thought that was Steph's guy. Steph assumed it was GP2's. GP2 reacts late, commits the foul. Fred VanVleet hits the 3, 4-point play. They get a stop. They score again right after. And after it was a 2-point game after 3, you're like 45 seconds into the fourth, and it's suddenly 8 points. Like, all the momentum that you had at the end of the third just immediately zapped, and that was the beginning of the end. The 20-5 run to begin the fourth that kind of ended this game. It all began with just a simple defensive breakdown. Warriors caught napping to begin the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most deflating shot of the game, just because, well, and in the third quarter, it wasn't like Houston was running away with it, or the Warriors could really make up any ground. They just traded baskets for the majority of that quarter. But you felt like, all right, Pajemski started to get going a little bit. I think he had 8 in the third. Jimmy Butler was working hard in the third quarter. I think he had 10 points. So, like, they were finding different players to produce offense, and it was just like, all right, if we can just get it within a possession or 2 going into the fourth quarter, Curry's going to figure out a way to bring this home. It honestly felt a little bit like, I would say, Game 4, where over the course of that game, again, you both and I agreed that they didn't outplay Houston. And I thought that tonight they didn't really outplay Houston through 3 quarters, but they were still within striking distance. And that 4-point play was absolutely massive. And honestly, Fred VanVleet, over the last 3 games of this series, even dating back to the loss, has been ultimately a playoff killer. And we've known him to be that. He did not look like it through the first 3 games of this series, but the last 3 he has made 18 of his 27 shots from 3-point range, was 6 of 9 again tonight, had a game-high 29 points, and played 40 minutes again. So, Fred VanVleet, he has been an absolute assassin for the Rockets.
No, he's been amazing. He's turned this series around, and for all of us Warrior fans who have PTSD from the 2019 NBA Finals, it's not going away anytime soon. I threw that out to you after Game 1 when he had a terrible game in Game 1. Big reason why the Rockets lost that game was because he could not hit an open shot, and I told you, it still feels like every time he takes a shot, it's going in, because I'm scarred by 2019, what he did for the Raptors. He was bad again in Game 2, but they still won. He's kind of figured it out since, and he's been a really, really big part. I mean, he was just absolutely amazing in this game. That Fred VanVleet 4-point play to begin the fourth was just one of the many plays that he made. I mean, it seems like all of his threes in this game were maybe not quite back-breaking, but very big threes that the Rockets needed. A lot of them came in that third quarter when the Warriors would get maybe a mini 4-0 run. Chase Center gets on their feet. A little bit of juice in the building. Warriors back within 5, right after being down by, say, 9, and then a Van Vliet 3 right back up to 8. Like, it was that kind of game, and Van Vliet just hit big shot after big shot after big shot. I thought he was amazing in this game and has been awesome like the last 3 games in this series now, even though they lost game 4 when he was pretty good. But Van Vliet was good. As far as the Warriors, I thought they maybe could have used a little bit more energy. Kuminga is the only Warrior that did not play. I don't think Kuminga makes a difference in this game. And the way that it flowed, I mean, you never really were out of it until the game was like over. And at that point, it's too late to go off the bench to someone like that. I thought maybe Guy Santos deserved some run, maybe in the third quarter or in the second quarter when the offense was, specifically in the second, when the offense was sputtering a little bit and you could not get any rebounds. Maybe you need a little bit of an energizer just to plug in there and see if he can dive on the floor, get some loose balls, because the Rockets were winning all of those. But again, that's something you try for a couple of minutes. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you pull him right back out and you go back to your normal rotation. For the most part, I'm with you. I don't think there was a whole lot in terms of roster decisions and rotations that the Warriors and Steve Kerr could have done. But I did think there might have been some room for Guy Santos and his energy just to see if he could flip the game by making some energy plays.
888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings, Mark Randy with you here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Idris is in Hayward. What's going on? How we feeling?
How's it going, fellas? You know how you could be sad and then mad, and then you start laughing. There was a play in the fourth quarter where Steph Curry it was like we're down like maybe 10 or 13, and it looked like we might come back, and Steph Curry did a behind-the-back pass to Draymond, and he fumbled the ball out of, like, nobody was near them, and I literally pulled my hamstring running out my room. I said, are you kidding me right now? Like, you got to be, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I let the last game slide. I didn't even say nothing. I didn't blow no steam, but to come out like this, okay, the real difference is, right now, guess what? Ime Udoka actually is a really good coach. They actually are a number 2 seed in a stacked West. Oh, guess what? The Houston has found their groove. Thompson is making his mid-range. Dylan Brooks, he stopped talking once we were down 3-1, but guess what? They've been winning. So maybe he needs to go talk Mr. Dre, Butler, and thing again, because I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm not going to throw Steve Kerr under the bus because, you know what? I get it. When you have Jimmy Butler, Green, and Curry, they should know that we're up 3-1. Let's go handle business. So, if we win Game 7, all is forgiven. But then it's going to be like the Sacramento Kings all over. And if you think that Dylan Brooks talks smack, Ant-Man, we actually like him. We all like him. He's fun to watch. But he's going to talk smack all day, and he looks forward to it. So we've dug our hole, but go Dubs. Appreciate y'all. God bless.
Appreciate it, Idris. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us, myself included, got ahead of ourselves as far as looking ahead to the series. You obviously can't assume anything now. Game 7 is a do or die. Your season is on the line, and the Golden State Warriors are going to have to go to Houston less than 48 hours removed from being handed a pretty humbling defeat tonight in Game 6 on the heels of a blowout defeat in Game 5. And they're going to have to put it all behind them. I think if there is a team that can do that, it would be the Warriors, just because of how much experience is at the top of their roster. But it's not an easy thing to do.
No, I'm not counting out the Warriors in Game 7. What I will say, and I love Idris's positivity, saying if they go into Houston and win, all is forgiven. I don't know about that, because obviously winning the series is of the utmost importance. But So Warriors are flying out to Houston tomorrow, some point tomorrow, probably not super early in the morning, but probably they're going to take off mid-morning, late morning, and get to Houston in the evening, and then gear up for a game on Sunday, 5:30 Pacific time, 7:30 local time out in Houston. They're packing their bags for a week, because if you win in Houston on Sunday in Game 7, you're flying from Houston to Minneapolis for Game 1 on Tuesday. You have 1 day off between Game 7 and, if you win, Game 1 in Minnesota. That is incredibly difficult. Steve Kerr said if they had lost in the play-in to Memphis and then had to play Dallas to be the 8th seed, if they had beaten Dallas to be the 8th seed, they essentially would have given up game 1 against OKC because they knew that they would have had no chance to win that game on one-day rest. It would be something similar in game 1 versus Minnesota if they find a way to win on Sunday. It's why I was so concerned about the game 5 loss, because you set up this scenario where you have so much less rest than your would-be opponent in the second round. Even if you win Sunday, for me, not all is forgiven because you've set yourself up for failure at the very least early in that series.
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah, you have set yourself up for failure. But what I guess I would push back on is the assumption that you could just chase Game 5 and win it. Like, that assumption to me, having especially seen tonight, is fool's gold. Like, the idea that they were just going to walk into Houston and throw their rings on the Toyota Center floor and come out with quote-unquote effort as opposed to what they showed, which was a lack of anything, and they were going to win that game, that I refute. Because while I see people texting in and on our YouTube chat, they're mad about Kerr throwing Game 5 or I don't think they were going to win that game. And actually, this game confirms to me that belief, because this game they had as much rest as possible from how much they didn't charge themselves up for that game, and they still got beat on their own floor, having slept in their own beds. Like, I don't think that the way that they chose to manage this series is the reason why they will lose. I think it's because Houston overall has rope-a-doped them into a corner where they have worn them down over the course of this series. I don't think that Houston has made a ton of adjustments. I think what they've done is lean maybe perhaps a little more into their two big lineup. They play a little more zone, but they've hit more shots as the series have gone on. They have bruised and battered the Warriors as this series has gone on, and the Warriors are not either young enough, athletic enough, or big enough to sustain the body blows that they've taken over the course of these last 1.5 weeks.
Yeah. I want to go back to the callers. I know we got a lot of people weighing in, but I do want to say I hear you, and the only thing worse than a blowout loss in Game 5 would have been a loss in the final minute where Steph, Jimmy, and company have to play 40-plus minutes each, because then you're setting yourself up for a much bigger challenge tonight if you stretch your guys out like that and you still lose. So I hear you. I would just prefer, even if the second bite at the apple is a worse bite, I would prefer 2 legit bites at the apple. And it felt like, I don't necessarily blame this on Steve Kerr. I felt like it was just so much more on the players individually. I felt like they were just so incredibly confident in their ability to win tonight's game that they said, you know what, whatever about Game 5. I would rather take your chance. Maybe your individual chance in each game is a little worse because you potentially waste some effort in Game 5 and still lose, but I'd rather have 2 legitimate bites at the apple than punt on one and then maybe a slightly better opportunity in the second game. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We can agree to disagree. I feel like the stamina of this team that's shown over the last couple of games leads me to believe that one of these was going to be a blowout loss, like either the game in Game 5 or tonight following a game that you supposedly chased. Let's go to Alex in Atlanta. Alex, how we doing, man? What's going on?
Well, it's late for me here, boys, but, I wanted to call in. There are a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First thing, I know you guys had mentioned the shooting of Houston got better over the course of the series. That's a big one. But number 2, you'll forget that Houston was shooting, I think, 60% from the foul line in the first 3 games of this series. They just weren't making their foul shots. They were getting to the line constantly, and they were leaving a lot of points on the table, and that's just not happening anymore. They're still going to get fouled a lot because of their size, because of their athleticism, the fact that the Warriors can't really defend them that well without fouling. And now that they have that going for them, in addition to the fact that Fred VanVleet seems to have caught fire and turned back the clock to 2019, the Warriors are in a tough spot. But look, I agree with some of the callers that have talked earlier. I do have blame that I would lay on Steve Kerr, not necessarily for this game, but more that this series has been an encapsulation of the flaws in his coaching philosophy getting exposed, if you will. And I say that saying that this is a coach that we know likes to play small ball. He likes to lean into 3-guard lineups. He likes to be able to exploit mismatches on the perimeter and try to find guys who can shoot from deep, who can shoot from three, because he knows that if players are going to be double teaming Steph or double teaming, in this case, sometimes Jimmy Butler, that a wide open 3-pointer should be available. But it's almost gotten to the point where there are guys who are driving to the basket and have opportunities for either a mid-range jumper or even a potential layup, and they're passing those up, hoping that someone can just make a three instead. You can watch around the 6-minute mark in the fourth quarter where the Warriors are just desperately jacking up 3-pointers. Notice how Steve Kerr is not getting frustrated on the sidelines. He's not getting frustrated on the bench. He's not getting up and saying, hey, try to attack the basket or anything like that. He's kind of content with that sort of situation. And it leads me to my final point, that I believe that coaches, a roster on a professional sports team, especially if you have a coach that's won you a lot of titles, a roster is constructed in the coach's image. It's constructed in a way that fits the system the coach wants to play in that particular sport. And I think the roster for the Warriors for the last several years has been constructed in a way that best fits Steve Kerr's basketball philosophies. It worked out in 2022. We had a lot of high IQ players on that team, a lot of veterans on that team, and we got matched up into a lot of younger, inexperienced teams, and it just happened to work out for the Warriors, and that was great. The problem is, though, is that when those philosophies don't start to work, they become much more pronounced as potential problems. The fact that this team hasn't really had a legitimate rim protector since Andrew Bogut retired, the fact that while they do have a 7-footer in Quentin Post, that looks like a guy who has no idea how to rebound the basketball. I think he had 1 rebound tonight in 18 minutes, and that was a ball that was tipped to him. The fact that, you don't have a lot of size on this roster, but that's because big men are typically worse at passing the ball, and this is an offense led by Steve Kerr that likes to pass the ball and swing the ball around a lot. So I think we've just reached a point where all of those potential shortcomings that come with how Steve Kerr likes to coach his team, how he likes a roster to be constructed around his system, have just caught up with the Warriors. And it's looking like it's going to lead to a first-round exit again this year. And you probably have to start asking a lot of questions about where this team goes from here in the offseason.
Appreciate it, Alex. Yeah, well, that last part I totally agree with. There's going to be even if they win on Sunday, it's really tough to envision the Warriors doing much of anything in the next round just because of how depleted they'll be.
Hard to see. But
there's going to be some tough questions to answer during this summer, no matter what. The thing that I guess I would say is this team was a group that was going nowhere. Jimmy Butler, to me, actually isn't a player that, at least when they traded for him, is a Steve Kerr fit. Like he's more of a traditional pick and roll isolation player. He's smart. He's obviously savvy. He's older, if that fits into whatever you believe Kerr likes. But I actually think that the 2 trades that they made this year, Grandy, kind of buck this ideology that people closely associate with Kerr. The other trade was obviously Dennis Schroeder, who they explicitly stated was brought in because he did stuff that they did not have. I think Jimmy Butler fits more into that category than not. And they're at a point where they're still losing even with him in some of these biggest moments. So, yeah, we're going to talk a lot about the roster in the offseason. But again, for tonight, as far as the adjustments that he could have made, I thought he tried to play every card he had.
I think, and I'm seeing it all over our...
except for one.
I'm seeing it all over our text line right now, the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. I'm seeing it on our YouTube chat, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Kerr refuses to play his bigs. And I hear you. I mean, they go small. They go smaller than any other team in the NBA, and you're going up against maybe the biggest trio that the NBA could possibly, realistically throw at you in Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Şengün, and Steven Adams. I hear you. I'm telling you, Kevon Looney is not the answer. He is a shell of himself, and it's nothing against Looney. He's a Warriors legend, and he always will be, but he's not the answer. Trace Jackson Davis is not the answer. Warriors are getting incredible value for where they picked him almost 2 years ago now, but I'm sorry, he is not the answer in this series. Quentin Post, you said it earlier, he's having a really rough series. He is not the answer. The second that he checks in, whoever he is guarding goes right at him him or they get him involved in a switch and they attack him and they at the very least get a good shot on him. I don't think the answer is on the roster. Now, if you want to blame Steve Kerr for potentially some roster decisions and you think Steve Kerr has shot down the Warriors' search for big men, legitimate big men, then okay. If that's true, we can have a legitimate conversation. But as far as tonight goes, as far as this series goes, the Warriors are at their best when they're starting five, when their five is Draymond Green. That is just the reality. And when Draymond is not playing very well like he hasn't for the last 2 games specifically, and for the most part has had a average at best, probably below average series, save for a great defensive play that helped them win Game 4, I would argue he's been below average, then you're not going to be great. Draymond is their best 5 on the roster. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel. It's the way I felt all season long. And if Draymond is having a bad game like he did today and like he did in Game 5, you're probably going to lose because you're going to get abused on the boards. You're going to get battered in the paint, and that has been the case. I just don't think the answer is there for Steve Kerr. It's not like they have a Zubats on the bench, right? Like if they did, he'd be playing and playing 35 minutes a game. They don't have that. This is the best that they have, and they're going to have to try to find a way to live with that in Game 7.
And to be fair, it had them up in this series 3-1.
It did.
And then things turned very, very quickly. Let's go back to the phone lines. 888-957-9570 is the number. Shaka's in Berkeley. Shaka, what's going on? How we doing?
Oh, man, I'm so, man, that was a terrible loss, man. I want to say this the right way, so I don't want to. The coach is not making the necessary changes. The other coach understands that those players are here that he's putting in the game post is not athletic. So they're going to, just like you just said, they're going to attack him. So your best person, the best athletic player on the team is not playing. So I don't know what. This is not soccer. This is NBA basketball. We can't get a rebound. I would want to know what was the rebound count, because the older players are getting tired because they're fighting so hard to even get a rebound. They're making unnecessary turnovers by our best players. You know, I mean, you can't lose. They're playing a 2-center. We got to put bigger players in there. Everybody keeps saying TJD or Kuminga's not the answer, but we're not saying the answer though. So we would like to get for him to give him a shot, man, because we can't get a rebound, and that's why we're losing. We're unathletic and they're attacking us. They're all 6'8", 6'9". They're all Kumingas. So I don't understand why you will put Post out there. If you run a couple plays for him and let him shoot, I can understand that. But on the defensive side, he's a liability, and Stevie Wonder knows that. So I mean, like brainwashing. We were listening to brainwashing every day. Kuminga needs to be in the game, man. That's all I want to say. Everybody have a good day. We're going to win Sunday, too.
I certainly hope so, Shaka. Well, a lot of people are with you on the Boxing Regression Work Injury Attorneys text line. Not even 1 minute for JK. That's from the 650. People are asking for Kuminga in our YouTube chat powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Well, I got some good news. If you're a Kuminga fan, you might see him in Game 7 because Kerr said anything's on the table, basically. I still don't think that that's really an option he'll go to just because he hasn't through the first really 6 games of this series. And it was unfortunate that he was ill with a migraine in really the only game he probably would have gotten legitimate burn in. But I personally don't think that he's the answer.
I don't think so either. I think it's probably a little too late for that at this point.
All right, let's take a break here, and we'll take some more calls on the other side. 888-957-9570. Evan Giddings, Mark Garanti wrapping up this one. Warriors losing Game 6, forcing a Game 7 on Sunday. Final score 115-107. We're back after this on Warriors Wrap-Up.
Pajemski, lob, Peyton, the dunk. Warriors take the lead. Beautiful transition basketball.
What a great outlet pass. First by Draymond, then by Steph.
Offensive foul. Şengün flattens Pajemski. Knocked it over. Turnover, Rockets.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, that's when things were looking good. That pass might have been the cleanest 2 or 3 passes they had all night. That outlet pass to GP2 eventually on the lob did not touch the floor. Perfect transition bucket, and might have been the final one for the Warriors tonight because they ended up getting beat 115-107 in Game 6 of this 7-game series. Goes back to Houston on Sunday. Evan Giddings, Mark Grandy with you on 95.7 The Game. This is Warriors Wrap-Up. I do want to get to our phone calls at 888-957-9570, so we'll jump right in and go to Steven in Oakland. Steven, start us off here. What's going on, man?
Hey, guys, I just wanted to say right off the bat that anyone complaining in the chat line or the YouTube chat or text line about Game 5, you guys don't know basketball. If you look at Houston's shooting percentage, it wasn't even about us. They were shooting like 95% from their true shooting. But in terms of this game, I really look at the tone setters and Steph Curry. He really got the game started off pretty bad with 3 quick turnovers and 2 quick fouls. That's just a horrible way to start the game. He's got to be smarter. You guys alluded to it, the fourth quarter play, the start where they leave Fred VanVleet, who's been white hot, they just leave him open. That can't happen. You know, you finally, and you really think about it, we were chasing those points off of turnovers the entire game. We were always down by like 6-7 points, and those were the points that we basically were down by the turnovers. Going into this next game, if we're just smarter if we're just a smarter team, I have us winning, but we got to really play smarter basketball, better ball control. And we can beat these guys, but, post getting into foul trouble, that was a lot of the reason why Şengün and Adams were able to go off. We got to get smarter with not fouling these guys so easily.
Thanks, Steven. I think he's right from this standpoint that the equation to victory hasn't changed for the Warriors. It's taking care of the basketball, keeping them off the free throw line, and making enough shots from three-point range. And they did none of those things tonight, Grandy.
Yeah, if you look at the first 5 games of this series, Rockets have you beat in the vast majority of statistical categories. They're shooting better from the field. They're actually shooting better from deep. They're getting to the free throw line a whole lot more, but they're making fewer free throws in terms of attempts or percentage, and they're turning the ball over more. So the Warriors have been able to make up for their deficiencies literally across. They're getting out-rebounded. They're committing more fouls. They're getting outshot from 2 and from 3, but they have won basketball games in this series, and entering today they had a series lead because they took care of the ball and because they hit their free throws at a higher clip. What happened today? You alluded to it. You committed 17 turnovers. Houston turned that into 22 points. Houston committed 13 turnovers. You only got 12 points off of those turnovers. You lose that battle. Houston makes 33 free throws. You make 18. And you weren't terrible in terms of rebounds. It was 46-42, so you're actually better there than the average game so far this series, but you still lost the rebounding battle. You lost the shooting battle, both from 2 and from deep. You also, this time, just happened to lose the turnover and the free throw battle.
Yeah, I mean, look, they had 13 they got more offensive rebounds in this game than the Rockets did. I also think a big reason for that is you're taking almost 50 threes. There's longer rebounds, a less traditional fight inside, go get him, as opposed to balls getting tipped out and around.
And Houston only had 12 fewer shots than you because they had so many free throws, and you just have fewer attempts to get an offensive rebound when you make the second free throw. Although sometimes they missed the second free throw and they got the offensive rebound anyway.
They also got a couple of offensive
there was still
rebounds.
a lot of them where they made the second free throw and the Warriors are taking the ball out of the net anyway, and there's no chance for an offensive rebound.
That's very true. 888-957-9570. Let's go to Ted in Livermore. Ted, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Hey, fellas. Disappointed like everybody. And I'm just going to I'm just going to take a second to call out Steve Kerr because let's just, to preface everything, state that he's got the best player, one of the best players ever to play the game, and he gave up the reins to Luke Walton, who went like 45-5 with Curry. So let's not put him on a pedestal. And from that perspective, tonight was coaching malpractice. I mean, I think like the prior game too. Why are we playing Quentin Post, who can't defend, who can't rebound, and for the only reason he's out there is to spread the offense out with his three-pointing ability? But now that Houston knows that all they have to do is put a minimal effort into closeout on him, and he cannot get up a quick shot. I think what he had one three-pointer tonight, and we're leaving Looney, a monster rebounder, a monster defender, on the bench. Did Looney even play tonight? It's inexcusable in my opinion. And we've got Jonathan Kuminga, who was one of the best players in the whole entire NBA before he got hurt this season, and he's sitting on the bench, and we're riding with Buddy Hield, who, by all counts, if you study Buddy Hield, know he's good for maybe one game in a 7-game series, and we got that out of him, but we're going to ride him instead of putting Jonathan Kuminga in the game, who is more athletic, to match up with Houston's athleticism. I just don't understand it. I mean, it's minimal coaching understanding to get Kuminga in the game and get Looney in the game, and having a rookie in Quentin Post out there trying to defend Şengün. I've thought about this. I don't even understand it. And I think.
I got you, Ted. Point taken. Look, I understand that people are not very happy with the head coach, and that is typically what happens when shocking, deflating, depressing, I don't want to say inexcusable, but unforeseen losses occur. It happens because we all thought, you and I included, that they were going to win this basketball game.
Yeah.
Number one, let's just get out of the way. Kuminga's not the answer. Number two, the idea of throwing, if you could throw 2023 Kevon Looney in there, I'm with you. Kevon Looney's not that player anymore. Why Quentin Post and Buddy Hield are in the game are to make threes. They didn't make threes. They also did not play a ton in this basketball game. When Buddy Hield isn't making shots, he plays 15 minutes. What did he play tonight? 16 minutes. When Quentin Post is not making shots or he's in foul trouble, he plays about 15 minutes. What did he play tonight? 17 minutes. Like, you at some point have to put some blame on the players for not playing well enough. And I understand it's the head coaching job to put them in positions to succeed. And while I don't think he did that off the bat, because I had my eyebrow raised when they put GP2 into the starting lineup, I don't think it necessarily worked tonight, but I understood why he did it. At some point, you got to look around and say, dude, Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry scored 55 freaking points tonight, largely in three quarters. And outside of that, your non-bench, end-of-bench guys scored 40 points. That's less than 100. Your team gave up 115. You're not going to win those games.
Yeah. Plus, we can also give the Rockets credit for playing a hell of a basketball game. I mean, they were amazing today. They played a great basketball game. Was Steve Kerr great by any stretch today? No. Was he good? No, probably not. Was it his worst game of the series? Yeah, probably. But he won them game 3. I mean, Steph was awesome in game 3, but Steve pushed all of the right buttons in game 3. They do not win game 3 if Steve does not move Buddy Hield into the starting lineup. And I've seen so much of this. The problem with Steve Kerr is he doesn't stick with the hot hand. What do you call Buddy Hield over the last handful of games? He's been sticking with the hot hand. Today he went 0 for 4. Okay, so you mentioned he doesn't play a ton today. Is it Steve Kerr's fault that Quentin Post is missing an open 3? No, it's Quentin Post's fault. I mean, he's a rookie second-round player, but it is what it is. He's their second-best three-point shooter when Buddy Hield has a night like he does today. What else is he supposed to do? And the idea that Jonathan Kuminga was one of the best players in the NBA before he got hurt, please. Come on. He was having a hell of a stretch, but he was nowhere near that level. And what the Warriors were lacking today, Evan, was smart decision-making, was, limiting turnovers, it was getting on the glass, and it was defending. Has Kuminga done those three things consistently? No. He is not the answer here. Kevon Looney's not the answer here. Trace Jackson-Davis is not the answer here. Steph Curry, the caller mentioned 3 turnovers early. He committed 5 turnovers in this game. He was great through 3 quarters, but Steph, you can't turn the ball over like that. Draymond, take the little 15-foot bunny. They're giving it to you. There are so many other things to be frustrated by in this game before someone like Kuminga or Looney or Trace Jackson-Davis even pop into my head.
I also don't think Draymond would hit the bunny, but he hasn't shot it very well whatsoever in this series. Let's go to Islam in Chicago. Big E, what's going on, man? How we doing?
What's going on, guys? Man, thanks for having me. It's been a tough ride this day. There's a lot of negativity that's going on, but hey, at the end of the day, we still got Game 7. We're in a great position to at least, if you tell me that we'll be in this position when we was 25 and 26, I'll take it. So that's the first thing. Now, about the game, I will say that, personnel is kind of crazy. I'm not going to go here and now who should play, who should not play. What I will say is that we got to be a little bit smarter on when lineups are coming in the game. When, they bring in those 2 bigs, I do feel like Draymond Green is 6'7". I mean, let's be honest. I've been playing basketball all my life, and there's no way in hell I can stick a 7'1" guy, and I'm 6'5". I mean, eventually it's going to wear and tear. It's going to take wear and tear on you. So I don't feel like Quentin Post is a solution. Maybe bring in Jackson Davis because he did show a little grit when he pushed Sengun at that time frame. I feel like he has a little bit of a spark with him just to see how it goes. That's like try to make a little bit of adjustments when we had these 2 bigs in because at the end of the day, these guys shot 46 free throws and we only shot, 25? That was the biggest difference, the free throws and the offensive rebounds and not sticking the point guard. If we can stick him, let's lock him up like how they're doing Steph with Curry, moving forward. Let's just stay on him because Van Fleet is the veteran. We can't let him get off. We can shut him down, cut the head off the snake for Game 7, and then at the same time get some offensive rebounds when we hack it Shaq, and we still can't get the offensive board. Now it's a 3-point play. He hits 1 free throw, then they put the putback because we have 6'7" guys playing against 7'1" guys and 6'11" guys. I understand that Draymond Green is a great defensive type of player, but I mean, you putting a toll on this guy. We got to have 2 bigs out there, and that's limited these 3 guard formations. I just feel like maybe we have to put Prosthetic on the bench, Buddy Hield on the bench. I mean, hell, come out there with Moody, Curry, and a big guy with Jimmy Butler and put Draymond at the 4, and let's see how it goes, at least when they put those 2-headed monsters in the game and just cut the head off the snake. Let's not worry about what Green's going to do, what Brooks is going to do, the other guys, let them shoot what they shoot, but we cannot let Van Fleet get open. We see that this guy has been on fire the last 3 games. So that's just my take. I feel like we got what it takes. Just have to just keep our poise, stay with the concept, and just not let them take advantage of. They had second chance shots like for the last 3 games. Like they get third chance shots, fourth chance shots. It doesn't matter. They get all the rebounds. So we got to rebound the ball. It's not even about boxing. No, they're just way bigger than us. So we need to have at least 1 big out there, and it's not Post. He's not the answer because he has no defense. Either Moody or Jackson. That's my take. And Kuminga, come in sometime soon, just for 12 minutes. I don't care. That's all I got to say, man. Go Dubs. We're going to win Game 7 and move on. and when we do win Game 7, win Game 7, I will say that first game, we could take that L. But just Russia guys, play everybody that first game. We're going to lose anyway. And sit the starters Sat us out, maybe play 25, 28 minutes against Minnesota that first game. We down 0-1, then still game 2.
Thanks,
That's my take.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the call. Yeah, I don't think we can get to the next series until they wrap up this one, because we might not be talking about Minnesota.
They're underdogs. Game 7 on Sunday.
They sure are. But you brought this up, and he was talking about it, like the 50-50 balls, the loose balls that they had to get to that they couldn't get to. To me, that is Exhibit A of them being taxed and being just dog-tired at this point of the series. And I think that like the Warriors always used to benefit or win the chaos plays. There were 3 plays in this game that I don't know if they were backbreaking, like the Fred VanVleet 4-point play, because that was just a breakdown of miscommunication, and he's right. You can't let that happen. But that to me is more correctable than these, which is just pure all-out effort. Jalen Green misses a layup in the second quarter with 4:45 left. Gary Payton gets the rebound, immediately turns it over. Tari Eason picks him, gives it to a Dylan Brooks for a driving layup. That's one play in the first half. Third quarter, 4:50 left. Chaos ball loose on the floor. Ends up in the hands of the Rockets. They find an open Jabari Smith Jr. in the corner. You pointed out during the game, that's a killer. Puts you up by 7 midway through the third. And it was at the end of the shot clock as well.
Yep.
And then in the fourth quarter with 6:47 left, Adams, he comes over, weak side block on Jimmy Butler. Next time down, Fred VanVleet gets a chaos play where he ends up on the wing, drills a 3 because of course he does, because everything he's shooting is going down, and they go up by 12 with 6:47 left in the game. And then you're at the point thinking, well, do they need to pull the starters? Like all 3 of those plays, and there might have been some more too, were chaos plays that rewarded the Rockets. And I think it's because they were fresher, they were faster to the ball, and that's not something you can really change or adjust to. It's just them going out and getting it.
Yeah, and that last one you're pointing to, the Fred VanVleet 3 off the scramble for the ball, I think was the worst one because the Warriors actually got the stop, and it was actually credited as a Jimmy Butler turnover because he had the rebound as he was like going out of bounds, leapt in the air and saved it, threw it back to the middle of the court, and Şengün it wasn't even difficult for him. It kind of was right at him, not really blaming Jimmy, but the Warriors got the stop. They got the miss, and they had the first guy to the basketball, but because Jimmy's momentum took him out of bounds, it led to a turnover technically, right to Şengün, kicked it up top, Fred VanVleet, wide open 3, boom, 12-point game, 6:47 left. And at that point is really the first time I felt like, oh, this game is probably over. It wasn't officially over at that point, but it was pretty darn close. Yeah, and it's why I said earlier, I think if there was an adjustment for the Warriors to make in terms of who to play, I think it was Podziemski over someone like GP2. One for the shooting, and you know what Podziemski's going to do. He always is making those hustle plays. He came in, and despite not starting, despite getting demoted, if you want to call it that, despite not making a bucket in the first half, within a minute of him checking in, drew 2 offensive fouls. Like, those are the plays that he makes. So, it's easy on hindsight. I thought Podziemski should have started. I think the other adjustment was you're losing all of those 50-50 balls. You're losing the rebounding battle. Steven Adams is dominating you. Who is your best 50-50 guy? I mean, for the whole year, it's been Guy Santos. Steve Kerr has credited him all season long for coming in and just on the basis of energy and effort turning games. So I thought there was room for a little bit of Guy Santos, at least giving him a chance, seeing if it's there. If it's not, you move off of it. But we didn't see that. So if I am finding a way to maybe think where Steve Kerr could have been better, those are my 2 instances, but I'm not anywhere near certain that was going to change the outcome of this basketball game.
Yeah, and obviously Game 5 was different, but I remember he went to Guy earlier in that game, obviously, than he did today.
Yeah.
And Guy hit a couple threes, and it ended up still not really making a difference. Like him and Post, I thought, were the most energetic players in the first half of Game 5, and maybe he felt like, well, even with Guy's energy, it's not going to be the difference in a game like that. And that might have been the wrong move. Yep. Right? I'm not so sure. Let's go back out to the phone lines, 888-957-9570. Tristan's been hanging on in Temecula. Tristan, if you're still there, what's going on? How we doing?
Oh, man, I would have been better if we closed this out, but it's all good. But kind of the piggyback off what you said, Mark, earlier about the answer. Well, the answer is not on this roster, man. Like, the fact that we got this far after we got Jimmy is probably a miracle in itself because, I mean, just look at our role players compared to even the Rockets role players, or even if they were to advance in Minnesota, we just don't have the guys that can consistently make the right plays, or even give like an offensive like spark. Like it should never be where Jimmy and Steph are having to give it their all just to even like grind out a win. Like that's not a good way to win. That's not a good way because these guys are older. Steph is 37 playing with the thumb injury. Jimmy just had the pelvic contusion. Like these are guys with a lot of mileage on their bodies, and if other guys aren't stepping up consistently to take pressure off of them, like there's been too many times even today where so many guys were driving to the basket right in front of the rim, don't even look at the basket, just pass it out. And then you get all these, defensive rotations from the Rockets are able to guard us because we're just scrambling all over the place because nobody can at least make the defense honest. Like we need, like regardless of what happens, if we move on to the next series or not, we need to address that and get guys that can be guarded by other teams so Steph and Jimmy don't have to work so hard, man. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. There's got to be some tough decisions come the offseason whenever, that moment arises. But if they do win Game 7, I mean, you're going to look back at Game 6 and be like, we could have closed this out if we gave more energy and effort. Because to start off that game with that flagrant foul from Draymond, to me, that just set the tone for the whole game. And I almost kind of knew it was going to be over from that moment because I'm like, not everybody was locked in when they should have. But that's all I got. Hopefully they win Game 7, guys.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, the other look, you got to give some freaking credit to the Houston Rockets.
They played awesome today.
They also didn't do what everyone thought they were going to do, which was try to rough up the Warriors, get into their faces, incite some sort of physical altercation to get them off their game, similar to what they tried to do perhaps in Game 4. They just went out there and kicked their ass. Like
Draymond committed the flagrant foul early.
And they didn't care.
That was it, basically.
They didn't care. Like from the start, Fred VanVleet has been locked in for 3 straight games. They didn't even have Dillon Brooks for most of this game because he was in foul trouble.
He's been one of their best players this whole series.
What happened? Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr. step up. Obviously, Steven Adams has been impactful over the course of this series. What, you said he's a plus 53 over these last...
plus 53 this series.
For this series.
Yeah.
That is a swing player that is singularly more impactful than any player that's coming off your bench right now, no matter if it's been one of the 4 different starting lineups that we've now seen from Steve Kerr. You have to give Houston credit. They are a 2 seed in the most competitive conference in the NBA for a reason. And while the Warriors did have success against them largely in the regular season, you got a taste of what they could do at the end. You got a taste of what they could do in Game 2. You absolutely got a taste of what they could be in Game 5. If this team hits shots, which, oh, by the way, they shot 40% again from three-point range, they're going to win a lot of those games. And so while I understand that people are pissed and sad that the Warriors have been pushed to 7 because they didn't quote-unquote close them out in Game 5, Game 6, 1 bite at the apple, 2 bites at the apple, whatever, they have not been better than the Houston Rockets over the course of 6 games. That's why it's going to 7. And I think you have to look at Houston, especially on a night like tonight, where they sustained 48 points through 3 quarters from the 2 arguably best players in this series, and they were up by 2 points. If you put your hat on another head and look at this game objectively, the Warriors did not deserve to win it, and there was no adjustment I think the Warriors could make that was going to change that, because the Rockets just kicked their ass.
Well said. The Rockets were by a mile the best team on the floor today. Like it wasn't that close. So the fact that it was a 2-point game after 3 is just a testament to the greatness of Steph and Jimmy, because that's all the Warriors had going for them in this game. It was a 2-point game after 3 quarters, and it felt like the Warriors were climbing the steepest mountain in the world. Like it was a miracle they were down 2. They were down 11, and it took a Steph crazy 3, Steph and 1, where he got around. He avoided the double team off of an inbound pass from an outlet pass from Buddy Hield. I thought he for sure was going to travel because the guy's right there as he turns around, splits 2, gets around Dillon Brooks, throws up a prayer, but for Steph it's not a prayer. It goes in, plus the foul. It took all that heroics just to be in the basketball game. Like it was damn impressive that this was a game, because it felt like they should have been down by double digits going into the 4th, and then the avalanche got going in the 4th quarter, and it was too little too late.
I'm with you. All right, it's time to take a break here on Warriors Wrap Up. 888-957-9570 is the number. On the other side, obviously we'll have your calls. Can also take a look towards Game 7, which the Warriors got to play. They can't just roll over now. They got to play on Sunday at 5:30 in Houston Pacific Standard Time, and hopefully get a win to move on to the second round. We're back after this. Evan Giddings, Mark Randy, 95.7 The Game.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major injury.
with 15.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
All right, Evan Giddings, Mark Grandy here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Warriors 115-107. They take a loss in Game 6. They got to go back to Houston. Jimmy Butler said it best. They got to go back to Houston, too. Everyone's getting on different flights, but we're all going to the same place. Now, if they win that game, obviously they're going to have to go to Minnesota, and that's a different story. But
they're packing for a week.
I mean, look, I understand, Grandy, why people feel so deflated about this loss, and it's because I think there is a feeling of helplessness based on the fact that I don't look at the Rockets and say, really from Game 1 to Game 6, that they've played schematically a ton differently. They've hit more shots. I think the Warriors have been worn down, and I can understand why a fan would watch this game and say, well, what's going to change in Game 7?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and we had the conversation earlier about like going forward in Game 5 or putting all your eggs in the Game 6 basket, and there is plenty of logic that suggests that is the right strategy. Not necessarily punting on Game 5, but if it doesn't go well for you early, then move on relatively quickly and get ready for Game 6. Today, you had no choice. You had to go all out. You're playing Steph as many minutes as possible. You're playing Jimmy as many minutes as possible. Steph played 41-57, so essentially 42. Jimmy played 8 seconds over 42. Draymond played 3 seconds shy of 37. So you have those minute totals. By the way, the most minutes for any Rocket was Van Vliet, just a tick under 40. But the other high-minute guys are Şengün, who's young, Amen Thompson, who's young. Steven Adams is by no means young, but he only played 31 minutes. They also have to fly home, but they get to sleep at their own beds. They get to be at home. They have the momentum, if you believe that carries over from game to game in a series. That might be worth something. The Warriors are at a major disadvantage, and there's multiple reasons why. But Jimmy's right. The Rockets have to fly just as long as the Warriors do. I'm not sure. I would imagine the Rockets are flying out tomorrow as well. I don't think that they'd be flying out late tonight. The Warriors for sure are flying out tomorrow. They'll get into Houston at some point tomorrow afternoon or evening, Houston time, maybe closer to the evening, because you lose a couple of hours as you fly east. But then they're going to get a good night's sleep and get ready for a 5:30 Pacific time tip for Game 7. There was a chance that we were going to see a game at 12:30 Pacific on Sunday. That's normally what you get on a standalone Game 7 in a NBA playoff matchup. But I believe ABC has something going on earlier in the day, so it's 5:30, which probably benefits the Warriors. You get 5 extra hours to get your body ready. But you're still at a major disadvantage going into Game 7 because of the nature of the way the series played out. You put all of your eggs in this basket, and now you're left trying to find any gas you have left in the tank, and you're going to put it all out there on Game 7. The one thing I will say is if they find a way to win, I'm not going to be shocked. I would be, I think, mildly surprised. I would not be shocked. But if they do win Game 7 on Sunday, you bet the house on Minnesota on Tuesday in Game 1 because there's no chance they could do both those things. Maybe this Warrior team 10 years ago could have done that. Even 5-6 years ago could have done that. Not this one with a 37-year-old Steph and 35-year-old Draymond and 35-year-old Jimmy.
Yeah, that's going to be a lopsided line, to say the least. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings, Mark Grandy, Warriors Wrap Up. Let's go to Jonathan and Hayward. Jonathan, how we doing? What's going on?
Oh, man. First of all, I do credit the Rockets. They completely outplayed us. And I do want to say, as both a Warriors fan, but also a Miami Heat fan, I completely am embarrassed by what happened with the Cavaliers. They should own it. I own it. That was absolutely embarrassing. But the one thing is they were not in position to possibly try and avoid a second blowing of a 3-1 series lead. And thinking about that, because immediately my mind went to 2016. And just what I've been watching all season, I will certainly be the first to say I severely underestimated Jimmy Butler's impact here. As badly as I either wanted him traded to another team or in a perfect world to stay with the Heat, I severely underestimated just how much he has worked here under the circumstances. But that being said, I said all along that who I wanted here was Nikola Vucevic. And the bottom line is, I'm mostly watching baseball now, and I'm trying to watch my Panthers. But from what I've watched of this series, it has just been a reminder of what I watched November through March. And the fact of the matter is, I've been screaming it all season that they don't have a quality big man. They don't have rim protection. They are getting out rebounded. They're not getting boards. They're not defending. The turnovers are insane, and what it's doing to them, let alone taking bad shots. And I don't know what the solution to that is, but all I can say is I think they put all their eggs in one basket for something that, as much as what Jimmy did in Miami by himself, and as much as everybody thought that with Steph he would have an easier time here, I think people were not looking at the full picture that I was seeing all year long, which was without defense. They say defense wins championships. Without role players stepping up so that it's not all Steph and Jimmy, you're not going to win. And I'm very concerned that I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. But even if they win Sunday, I don't see them playing a 7-game series in round one, and then when it's supposed to only get harder, surviving 2 more series just to get to a finals, let alone win a championship.
I got you, Jonathan. I got you. Look, some good points there. But I hate to break it to you, they're not going to get a big man that can shoot or a big man that can rebound between now and Sunday.
No, and maybe I'm entirely misunderstanding Jonathan's point, but I mean, he's not saying that the Jimmy Butler trade wasn't the right move to make. I mean, they were below 500 when he debuted, and they snuck into the playoffs, and they had a 3-1 series lead versus the 2 seed in the West. Like, I know we when you make the cutoff point, the 3-1 series lead, losing this series would be an absolute nightmare, and no one is denying that. But the Jimmy Butler trade was an absolute home run. It took a team, and it's not all Jimmy Butler's doing, but he has a major, major hand in it. He took a team who was not just like an average team, like a middling team, a team that was fighting to just be the 10 seed in the Western Conference. And he made them, over the course of his time as a Warrior, the second best team in the West. Like, when you look at the records from when Jimmy Butler debuted to the end of the regular season, the Warriors only had a worse record in the West than OKC. And OKC, historically amazing regular season. And they haven't lost in the postseason, by the way. Like, this series loss, if it goes that way, does not change that Jimmy Butler turned this season around immediately. So that trade is 100% the best move they could have possibly made. It by no means made this a perfect roster. I think we knew that going into the postseason. They could have won a round, maybe 2 if things broke right for them with this roster. Maybe. Not saying it was a guarantee, but maybe. They're not a perfect team. If they were a perfect team, they would have closed this out tonight. They're not a perfect team. Do they ideally would they like to have a 7-footer who can score and can defend and grab rebounds? Yeah, of course. Nikola Vucevic isn't that guy either, by the way. He'll space the floor for you. He's not going to defend big men. He's not going to rebound the ball for you down low versus big guys like Alperen Şengün and Steven Adams. He's not going to battle Ivica Zubac. He's not going to defend Jokic for you. So, yeah, were there other moves they could have made maybe that would have improved them? Yeah, nothing anywhere near the level that Jimmy Butler improved them, though.
Yeah, I think Vucevic is a $30 million Quentin Post. All right, let's go to Philmo Mike in San Francisco. Philmo, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, that's why you can't be playing. You can't be tricking off games. And horrible. I don't know what's up with the hesitancy. They were playing very hesitant tonight, scared to shoot. I know the Rockets are long, but, man, throw up a shot. Kerr, his lineups were so strange to me tonight. I really didn't get what he was trying to accomplish. Also, I don't like the fact that we got like 5 lineups in this 7-game series. Come on, Kerr. Like, what are we doing? Like, you not confident in, like, what are you looking for? You up 3-1. Play the players, play the same way you play. And then Post is kind of trash, man. Like, for real. He's not trash. He can't make a shot. He fouls all the time. And our defense is horrible. Why are people just open? How come every time we take a shot, it's someone right there, but when they take a shot, people are just wide open all over the court. Şengün get the ball in the middle of the court. Nobody's guarding him. Draymond, can you work on your layup package, bro? Your layup package right now, 2K is probably about 17.3. You got to work on that, cuz. You're in the middle of the court. You're a basketball player. Make your free throw shot. Come on, man. Like, they're playing this like how they used to play, how the Warriors used to play the Memphis Grizzlies, Tony Allen and Mike Conley and them, man. We gotta get better. But I really wasn't feeling it, D. It's too soft. Şengün getting the ball right in the middle. He can just turn around and shoot. He do a pump fake. Post jumping in the air. Post is trash. Sit him down. We don't even need to be playing him. And my last point is this. I'm sorry for rambling. Why is he a trusted agent? What has he done? And then you wonder why people asking about Kuminga. Was Kuminga available tonight? He must have been available.
He was. We lost Filmo? Damn. He was cooking.
Kuminga was available tonight.
Yeah, he'll be available Game 7.
Steve Kerr said 100% him playing meaningful minutes in Game 7 is on the table. Although, to be fair, he essentially said the same thing about today. Not necessarily about Kuminga, but he said everything is on the table for Game 6.
Oh, I mean, it should be. It's like you're trying to win a game. Clearly, he doesn't think he can win with Kuminga. I wouldn't. Post is not trash. All right, he's not trash. I think what happens in every single playoff series is your weaknesses, both as an individual player and as a team, get exposed. If you lose, it's because you have more flaws than the other team, and they're heightened by your opponent. Quentin Post, I hate to go and tell people, like, we saw this during the regular season. You remember when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dropped 50 on the Warriors and had a 21-point first quarter?
Yeah.
It's because he hunted Quentin Post every single possession. Like, every time he's on the floor, he gets attacked by the other team's best perimeter player, or he gets put in some sort of pick and roll. He's on the floor because you need somebody to shoot the basketball or to make a three. And tonight, and for most of this series, he has not been able to do that. Same with someone like Buddy Hield. Although, strangely, he had a good defensive game in Game 4, which was, in Steve Kerr's words, essentially an outlier.
Set the tone.
An aberration. Has not happened before. And the fact that he's not shooting the basketball well in this game means he's Buddy Hield. Like, he's had 2 double-digit games, back-to-back, mind you, which has not happened, it feels like, in a century. And then he has a stinker tonight. That's the Buddy Hield roller coaster. It's the roller coaster we rode, Mark, you and I, doing these pre- and post games before Jimmy Butler got here.
Yeah.
The Warriors roller coaster, quite frankly.
Very much like that. Also, love you, Phil Mo. Always love when you call in. But I do feel like we are very much so just reacting to a bad result tonight. Buddy Hield started today. Yeah, and he did not make a shot. Steve Kerr went to Buddy Hield in the starting lineup, and that was one of the major reasons the Warriors took a 3-1 series lead. Buddy Hield was great in Game 3, and he was great in Game 4. Warriors won both those games and took a 3-1 series lead. I was surprised they went with that move because Moses Moody had been in the starting lineup, and let me get the number for you exactly. When Moses Moody starts with Curry, Pods, Butler, and Draymond, the Warriors were 19-4. They are still 19-4 with that starting group this year. So going away from that seemed kind of crazy to me. Now, they had to because Butler missed Game 3, but they made more than just that move. They also started Buddy for Hield. Hield was great alongside Steph's great Game 3, and the Warriors won. What does Steve Kerr do? What so many of you out there who are frustrated with Steve Kerr right now have been begging him to do all season. Ride the hot hand. And guess what? Buddy Hield was the hot hand. So Buddy Hield started game 4 and was good again. A big reason why the Warriors won. Now it's a 3-1 series lead, thanks in no small part to the adjustment that Steve Kerr made. Now what is Steve Kerr to do in game 5? You have no choice but to start Buddy Hield again. And was he good? No. Was he the reason you lost? No. Everybody was trash in that game, and it was over like 10 minutes in. Okay, now you come back to this game. I honestly thought they were going to go back to the starting group, the normal starting group of Curry, Pods, Butler, Moody, and Draymond, the group that was 19-4. So I get some of the frustration, but let's not pretend like the adjustment of putting Hield back in the starting lineup helped them win games 3 and 4. Essentially, he was still playing the hot hand. Was it the right decision? And was substituting GP2 in for Pods the right decision? No. Based on what we know now, clearly not. And maybe you thought so in the moment. I had an inkling. I wasn't sure. I didn't feel great about it. But we don't know how it's going to play out. We now know it was a flat-out disaster, and it is fair to say Steve Kerr made the wrong decision. But if we are going to chastise Steve Kerr for his decisions today, we have to make sure to credit him for his decisions that helped them win Game 3 and 4.
Well, in a game they lost by 8, Buddy was a -3. Just saying.
Ducks.
888-957-9570 is the number. Fozzie's in the East Bay, if you're still there. Fozzie, what's going on? How we doing?
Yeah, doing good, guys. I mean, today sucked. Look, I've been listening all day, and Steiny, look, love Steiny. I think the game lost when he started singing Phil Collins, but I'll leave that for another day. Look, I mean, man, I was looking forward to see what adjustments Steve Kerr had as far as their Houston's defense goes and how they've been basically not letting Steph Curry breathe with the ball. And, he did his best as far as letting Steph bring the ball up. But if they're bringing up guys like Amen Thompson and Steven Adams on a double team on Steph Curry, to me that just smells like disaster, and it looked like disaster. I think he had a few turnovers with just them in front of him, and it looked bad. And I was hoping, he would have somebody else bring the ball up, and he did. He let Pods bring the ball up and stuff like that. But now we got to go to Game 7. And you know what? I'm not going to act like I'm not worried or anything like that, but at the same time, Steve Kerr is going to have to step his game up now. Let somebody else bring up the ball, because we know they're going to be breathing down Steph's neck. So let somebody else bring up the ball, have their press defense, do what they do half court, and then, make some plays to where Steph can get underneath the hoop or something, because every time somebody else is underneath the hoop and they get a wide open layup, for some reason, they just pass it out to the open guy in the 3-point line. So we'll see what happens, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not worried, but you know what? For Game 7, I believe that we'll be all right. Steph Curry, I don't know if you guys saw this on post-game, but Steph Curry went up to his family, asked for Cannon to come with him to the locker room. Cannon was so sad. He didn't even make it to the locker room with Steph. So, that's another personal thing going on with him. And you know what? Steph's gonna be Steph. All-time great. Love him. And he's going to do his thing on Game 7, and we'll see what happens. And no shot at Steiny, but don't be singing no more Phil Collins anymore. Cheers, boys.
Thanks, Fozzie. To be fair, I don't think Steiny was singing today. That was goo. I might have played a clip of Steiny singing from Game 6 2 years ago against Sacramento.
You missed the very tail end of the crossover.
Oh, he sung today?
When he sung, specifically because Willard told him not to, and he sung, and Willard claimed he had just jinxed it.
Oh.
So Steiny Steiny, okay, the reason why Steiny did it, and if you don't know the bit, Steiny always tries to get out of the crossover right at 212. Willard loves to give him a hard time and make him stick around. So Steiny, in an effort to get the hell off the air, started singing. And that essentially finally got Willard saying, all right, Steiny, you can leave.
Well, if there's a host to blame, it's Willard. He treated this team, he degraded them the entire series.
Steiny.
And to be fair, I didn't see this coming. I did not see the Houston Rockets pushing the Warriors to 7. I thought this would be a series that they would be able to win in 6 in one way or another. And I was wrong. A lot of people were wrong about how the Houston Rockets, and that's where you do have to give them credit. This series turned, I'm looking at it right now. This series turned when Fred VanVleet decided to start shooting 70% from three-point range, which is what he shot the last 3 games. He's averaged 27 points over 38 minutes. Şengün has played 37 minutes a night. He has averaged 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists in these last 3 games, a loss included. Amen Thompson has been a completely different player over the last 3 games than he has the first 3 games of this series, in which he's averaged 19-7 on 55% shooting from the floor. These guys have been awesome over these last 3 games, and it's been unfortunate that the Warriors have not been able to turn the Rockets' water off. But also, Granny, too, and I know we got to hit a break here in a minute, but real quick, we knew that if Houston could hit shots, they were going to be dangerous. You and I talked after the first couple games. We just didn't believe that they were going to be able to hit enough shots to beat the Warriors, and that's what they've done. So while Game 7 looks bleak, you might also be able to catch Houston on a poor shooting night. And that is completely within the realm of possibility for a team that over the course of this regular season has not shot it well.
Yeah, if Houston goes 6 for 29 from deep in Game 7 like they did in Game 1, the Warriors will very likely win that game. If they go from deep what they went today, which was 12 for 30, the Warriors will probably lose the game. Sometimes you make shots, sometimes you miss shots. And to Houston's credit, the vast majority of those shots, whether they made them or missed them, had been open. The reason that they missed those shots in Game 1 wasn't necessarily because the Warriors defended all those shots really well. How many of those in Game 1, Evan, were open VanVleet misses? A lot of them.
Especially down the stretch,
A lot of them. He's been making them now. If he makes them again in Game 7, on the road, having to fly after playing 40-plus minutes like Steph and Jimmy, if Fred VanVleet makes those threes and they hit 40% from deep, you're probably going to lose.
All right, let's do one last segment because I see we still got some calls to wrap up on the other side. We'll take you until midnight here on Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. Warriors lose in Game 6, 115-107. Game 7 on Sunday at 5:30. Evan Giddings, Mark Randy, we're back after this.
Well, good morning, kiddo. I love that you're home from college.
shot by playoff Jimmy.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
That shot is kind of a perfect, I think, symbol of the night because it was an unbelievable shot, a shot that helped the Warriors feel like they had some momentum going. Big look for Jimmy Butler right towards the end of the half, and then he misses the free throw. Yeah. Like they could not sustain anything for an elongated period of time, and while we saw flashes of great play by the Golden State Warriors, the Houston Rockets pretty much took every punch they had, and the majority of the punches, Grandy, only came from two people.
Well, yeah, and right before that also I think is exactly what you're talking about because it was an 11-point Rockets lead with 3:45 left in the second quarter. Then Steph goes on his personal 11-0 run. Over the course of a minute 45, down 11, the only person to score in less than 2 minutes is Steph, and it's a tie game with a minute 45 left. Then Houston responds right back with a 7-0 run. And then it ends ultimately with that Jimmy. We thought initially 4-point play, but his foot was on the line, so maybe a 3-point play, but then he misses the free throw. It's a 5-point deficit going into halftime. But you put together like your best 2-minute stretch of basketball, and it is thanks to Steph Curry's brilliance and your defense getting some stops on the other end, and then immediately in the blink of an eye, the lead's right back up to 7. Like that's kind of the story of this game. Warriors, they put together a good stretch, but then Houston, they don't blink. And I think you're spot on. We spend so much time talking about what went wrong for the Warriors and what they did do, what they didn't do. And Steve Kerr should have started Pajemski, should have played Guy more, should have done X, Y, and Z. And maybe there's truth to all of those things. But every run the Warriors had, every punch the Warriors threw, the Rockets had a counterpunch. They were great.
Well, I think that's why losses like these are more deflating is because there is a sense of helplessness. Like, the Warriors obviously did not play well in this game.
Yeah.
I actually thought that when I saw that there was a starting lineup change, I thought it was Kerr going back to Moody because
that's what I was expecting.
Like when you talked about. But I also understand that it was difficult to assess the Buddy Hield starting lineup in Game 5 just because they were so freaking flat. So I thought if there was going to be a move, it was going to be Moody back in the lineup. I thought he played pretty well today, considering the circumstances, especially in the second half.
He was like the only non-Steph Jimmy guy to score any meaningful points in the first half.
Yeah.
It was Steph and Jimmy and then a little bit of Moses. That was it in the first half.
And he was clearly aggressive. I know he didn't make all of his shots and wasn't perfect by any means, but
he tried to dunk on Steven Adams.
He might lead he leads the Warriors. I don't know if the league. He leads the Warriors in the most almost posters. I forget which. It was at the end of the season. He almost had one. Maybe it was in the Memphis play-in game. I got to go look at it. But Moses Moody has nearly caught 5 bodies this year.
He has, yeah. And then, if memory serves, right after he missed the dunk on Adams, he hit a 3 on the next possession, I'm pretty sure.
And that's Stay Ready Moses.
Didn't lose his confidence.
Let's go to the 408, talk to Ryan here on Warriors Wrap Up. Ryan, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Doing all right. Yeah, I don't think Quentin Post is trash. I mean, there's a lot he can't do. And he wasn't having a good game. And I don't think Kerr should have thrown him in there in the fourth quarter. It kind of got us off to a bad start, and I think he pulled him right after. But just from the beginning of the game, I mean, our offense just looks so stagnant. Like, people, it did feel like there was another caller, Alex, I think, and he was saying that, it was all three-pointers or nothing. Like, so many times people were, cutting, especially Pajemski, where was getting into the paint and then not even listening to shoot. And then they would pass it around a few times, and then it would eventually get to Butler. And I don't know how many times the announcers were like, "Oh, Butler got a grenade up, and he made it." I think Butler was the best player on the Warriors today. I mean, Curry was. With all those turnovers and then all those bad shots at the end of the game, and they're that kind of desperation threes. But they just need to pull up from mid-range more and get to the paint. And I know it's hard and then also Steven Adams just looked like Bill Russell today. He's a role player too. So I don't know why we think Looney and TJD are not playable, because they're pretty. I mean, like the two rosters are pretty much the same. It's just Rockets are bigger, and so I mean, when we're getting tired, I do think we have to go deeper into the bench. And that's kind of those are my thoughts on the game. I mean, Santos would have definitely helped.
I got you. Thank you, Ryan. I hear you. I mean,
Thanks,
it kind of bleeds into the next question of the most logical place we can go, Granny, which is, what do you do between now and Game 7? Because that's what the Warriors have to quickly turn around and decide how they're going to attack.
Yeah, I mean, one, you're going to need your stars to play great. You're going to need a whole lot better game from Draymond Green. You're going to need Steph to summon his greatness again, because he's in all likelihood going to be asked to play 38 or more minutes. You're going to have to ask the same thing of Jimmy Butler. You're going to hope that Hield makes shots, that Podziemski makes shots, that I mean, maybe even you just need everybody to play better. But in terms of adjustments that you can make, I would expect the Warriors are going to go to a different starting lineup once again. And I believe it was Filmo who called in and said, Steve, what the hell are you doing? This is now like 4 different lineup combinations in this 6-game series. Part of it is injury related with Jimmy Butler, but I imagine we're going to see them go back to what they did games 1 and 2, which was the starting lineup of Steph alongside Pods, Moody, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. They're 19-4 with that group as a starting 5. I would imagine we'll see them go back to that, and they're going to have to find a way to take Steven Adams off the floor. I know you and I both saw the same tweet. I can't remember exactly who it came from. Might have been Andy Liu. If you listen to Light Years, I forget exactly who it was. Maybe it was Sam, his partner on the Light Years podcast. But it was essentially the one of the bigger differences between this Warrior team and maybe the Dynasty era teams was they would find a way to just run Steven Adams off the court, because they would force him to match up with somebody on his defensive end, the Warriors' offensive end, that would abuse him. And right now, Draymond Green, whether it's because he's lost confidence in his shot, or he's not the player he once was, or because he does not have the offensive threats around him that make him more lethal offensively, because his best offensive skill has always been his ability to create for others. And when you don't have a lot of other shooters around, that generally tends to limit Draymond's impact offensively. So that's why Steven Adams is staying on the floor. So you're going to have to find a way to get Steven Adams off the court. Or if he's on the court, find a way to rebound better. Find a way to box him out. Hope that he misses his free throws when you go to the hack of Adams, because that did not work. And if he misses his free throws, box out Alperen Şengün, for goodness sake. Like, for me, you go back to the OG starting lineup, and then you spend all of your time figuring out how to neutralize Adams, whether that is get him off the floor or find ways to be successful with him on, because that has been the turning point in this series.
Yeah, I think that we see in Game 7 a lineup or a rotation similar to not the play-in game, but the Clippers game right before the end of the regular season that they lost. The one where Jimmy Butler played, it was an overtime game, but he played 48 minutes. Steph played 38. Pods played, guys played pretty much it was a tight 8, maybe 9-man rotation. And I'm looking at the box score here, and he basically just rode all of his best players. I think it's going to be a similar rotation that's tightened. And I know people might be thinking, well, gosh, your guys are gassed. You got to open up the rotation. You got to play. Maybe it's Santos. Maybe it's Trace Jackson Davis. You might see some more Kevon Looney. I'm not so sure. But I think in elimination games, you go out with the horses you rode in on. And their horses, they got a lot of miles on them. They probably wouldn't be competing tomorrow at the Kentucky Derby. But they are horses that you have gotten to this point with, and that have put you in a position that you were up 3-1. So it's cheap, but the adjustment is play better. And I actually think that is the wisest adjustment that Ime Udoka did not make. I know people have chimed in all show about how Udoka's coaching circles around Kerr and did so again tonight. I think the best adjustment he did, the adjustment was no adjustment. The fact that he didn't bench Jalen Green like everyone was asking for between Game 4 and Game 5. The fact that he didn't try and go small against the Warriors' smaller lineup. That in Game 1 looked like they were going to cakewalk them in this series because the two big lineup was largely ineffective. Ime Udoka stuck to his guns, and that's the reason why the Rockets are in the position they are now. I think the Warriors, though they've lost the last two closeout opportunities, though they look like they're running out of gas, they cannot waver now. Because if you do, I think you just give the upper hand back to the Rockets.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be heavy Steph and heavy Jimmy and heavy Draymond and heavy Pods would be my guess. I think maybe the biggest thing is that we're going to see Pods back in the starting lineup, and he's probably going to play upwards of 35 minutes. I know a lot of you out there hear that, and you might not like it. The reality is Pods is the fourth most trusted player on this Warrior team. He didn't start today, not because Steve Kerr doesn't trust him, but because Steve Kerr tried to take away Fred VanVleet. And we can be honest here, Steve swung and missed because GP2 did absolutely nothing to slow down Fred VanVleet. That was his matchup. It was GP2, you're starting, and you're tasked with defending Fred VanVleet. What did VanVleet do in the first quarter? 8 points. And he finished the game with 29. From the jump, it failed. Like, from the beginning, it absolutely failed. So I think that's the major adjustment we're going to see that the Warriors do. And then, I mean, it's pretty simple. You hope that your guys make shots and you hope that Houston doesn't. Because this series has been full of wide open shots. It's just for, on average, not great shooters, right? Steph is not getting wide open shots. Almost everybody else on the floor is getting looks at open shots. Houston missed them in Game 1. Warriors won. Houston made them in Game 2. Houston won. It has been a little different the last couple of games. Games 3 and 4, Houston wasn't terrible from deep, but the Warriors got awesome games. One from Steph and then another from Jimmy. Another good one from Steph in Game 4. But I think ultimately it's going to be the others. And it's always been this way for the Warriors. It's going to be the others, and if they hit shots at all. Tonight they didn't, and you lose, even though you got through three quarters awesomeness from Steph and Jimmy.
I mean, I will say I was surprised at how well the Rockets handled the road environment. But also, to be fair, the Warriors didn't have enough, outside of really the Curry flurry at the end of the second quarter, I thought, to really get the crowd into it. And yes, it's not maybe the best home court advantage in the NBA.
Game 4 was awesome.
Game 4 was very loud because I thought that there was a lot of key moments, key plays where the crowd was allowed to get into it. Tonight, obviously, everybody was tense. Like, we were walking around before the arena. What do you think about the game? Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty nervous. And when you're nervous, yes, you're not going to be loud. You're waiting for the team to give you something to really bite into and get electric for. And I just thought that because of how good Houston was for the most part of stopping a 7-0 or a 9-0 run, like they put halts in them when they got to 5 or even to 6, there just wasn't really anything to sort of... And even when the Warriors had like a leak out, there would be maybe a turnover, or they would follow up an alley-oop dunk by giving up a quick basket on the other end. The Rockets, I thought, handled the environment well, and the Warriors, and specifically the young players, are going to have to do the same because while Curry, Draymond, and Jimmy have all played in Game 7s, and Kevon Looney and I think Gary Payton II may not have during that run, but Pods has never played in a Game 7 before.
Oh, Sacramento Game 7.
That's right. Yes, good point. And Moody has played in one Game 7. Well, barely.
Played.
Has experienced one Game 7. So if they are going to go back to that starting lineup, which has got them to this point, and I think it's a good move and a wise move to do so, Moody's got to play with the same kind of aggression that I thought he played with tonight. And Pods has got to find a way to summon the player that he was in Game 4. You know, really the role players, I thought, killed them for the most part through the first three quarters.
Game 7 is going to be an absolute, zoo in Houston. Consider what Steph Curry and the Warriors franchise have done to that franchise over the years, and now they have an opportunity to erase a 3-1 deficit and to wipe the Warriors away in Houston. That is going to be one of the more raucous environments the Warriors have ever been in. And they've been in a lot of them. A ton of them. I always think back to 2016 against OKC as the biggest challenge the Warriors have ever had on the road in the playoffs. the Warriors got absolutely boat raced in games 3 and 4 in OKC that series. That's why they were down 3-1. They won game 5 at home, kind of eked it out, and then you go into game 6 and you knew it was going to take some otherworldly performance from Steph or Clay, and you got them from both, and you still barely won. Like, that was the pinnacle for, like, road environments, and, like, as a Warrior fan, the least amount of confidence I had in a Warriors team and getting it done. Like, you think Sacramento's a big deal. Houston, game 7, considering what those franchises have meant to each other over the last decade, I think maybe the only one that's going to compare for me is OKC in that series in 2016. Houston is going to go absolutely ballistic for every make for the Rockets and every miss for the Warriors. It is going to be crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately, they have a few players that have experience winning in a situation like that. Before we get to our final call of the night, do you think that there's a place for Kuminga?
I mean, I would not be surprised if Kerr goes to him, especially if it doesn't start good. Like, if the Warriors get down by 12 points and it's in the second quarter and Kuminga hasn't played yet and it's not looking good and you can kind of feel it building, I wouldn't be shocked if he goes to him. I think it's foolish to expect much, though. And that's not me saying I don't think Kuminga is capable of helping the team win. I just think, considering the way that he has kind of been yo-yoed, it's more so been a one-way yo-yo. He hasn't played. He's only played when there's an injury. And he would have played a lot in Game 5 had he been healthy enough to play. He was suffering from migraines because it was such a blowout. Maybe you feel a little bit better about his ability to go in and play. But considering that he has not played like nearly any basketball over the last 3 weeks almost, really, because it began at the end of the regular season versus the Clippers, then a play-in game, and now this entire postseason series. Over the course of 3 weeks, he has like one stretch of basketball that he's played, and it was when Jimmy was out in Game 2. I can't possibly go into that game expecting like greatness from Kuminga, but I would not be shocked if Steve Kerr turns to him. It feels a little bit unfair to expect Kuminga to have a major positive impact, though.
I think if he plays, things are not going well, and to expect greatness from him is completely unfair to him.
Yep.
Like, it hasn't worked. And I don't know. For some reason, if it does tomorrow, I think everybody would take that. Like, if Kuminga could swoop in with his cape and save the Warriors, that would be incredible. I guess I just assume that there's someone else that is going to be wearing that cape if indeed it does happen. He's in a really tough spot, but unfortunately, it hasn't worked with him so far. I think the fact that he hasn't played much in this series is a reflection of that. And I don't think that Steve Kerr is going to be calling his number on Sunday if the game is going according to plan. I also just don't think it's fair to it's unfair to ask him to come in a Game 7 and bail you out.
Yeah,
like I don't expect it, honestly.
Don't expect him to play, or don't expect him to play well. And not that the fault is his necessarily.
If the Warriors are playing well, I don't think Kuminga will be in the game.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's the way that I see it. All right, let's end our final caller of the night. He's always waiting for us, Mark.
Chardol?
Chardol's in Fremont. Chardol, what's up, man? How we feeling?
Hey, Evan and Mark. Tough loss for the Warriors tonight in Game 6. They fall to the Rockets 115-107. I got to give the Rockets a lot of credit. They're a great basketball team. They got a lot of great stars on that team. They got Şengün, they got Thompson, they got Brooks. I mean, they're a good team. But if we got to take down the Rockets in Game 7, we got to put everything on the table because. I thought as a diehard Warriors fan, I thought we would close this in 5 games, really. Like, I thought we would take care of business and win today, and we wouldn't go to a Game 7. But we didn't get it done. You gotta, whatever is done is done. You can't really dwell on it and read over it and say what we didn't do well and what we did do, what didn't work for us. We can't do that. We got to just move on and learn from what we did. And I think the Warriors are going to learn from it. They're very resilient. They're gonna bounce back. In Game 7 in Houston. I think Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler had an amazing performance today. They work so well together. Such a great duo. I'm a big fan of Jimmy Butler when he came in the league. But what were your thoughts on the loss tonight? I mean, like, was it heartbreaking for you guys as you cover the Warriors a lot, just on the radio network?
Thanks for the call, Chardol. I don't know, Granny, was it heartbreaking for you?
I mean, it was rough to watch. I don't know if I'd go as far as heartbreaking. It was difficult to watch. It was always hard to watch Steph walk off the floor like that, and you could tell when he got up on the podium that he was pretty disappointed. But generally, when the Warriors have their backs up against the wall like that, that has brought out the best of them. You could argue their back was up against the wall tonight, though, because a Game 7 feels pretty damn daunting. And they came out with one of their worst 8-minute stretches of the season when they got outscored 20-5 to begin the fourth quarter. So, I don't know.
I can't say I've been heartbroken over a sporting event.
I have
probably
for
since,
sure.
No. Like probably since I was maybe in high school. I don't feel heartbroken over sports. It's just not how I roll.
I don't think I can feel heartbroken over a first round series.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken over the Niners Super Bowl. All of them.
I was heartbroken when two sports teams that I love left the city that I love.
That's fair.
I really don't care much about games at this point. They don't affect me like that. But it was very deflating. It was shocking, and it was a loss that I think people are going to obviously refer to when this series is over if the Warriors lose in 7, and that's going to be on Sunday. But he did mention Jimmy Butler, Grandy, and Jimmy Butler was crashing the boards.
There we go, Jimmy.
Brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. 9 rebounds, also had 8 assists in this game. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, Jimmy ended up as a minus 12, largely because nobody could hit a shot in the fourth quarter. But Jimmy Butler, I thought, and I know Curry had that quick stretch in the second. He ended up with scoring the most points by any Warrior in this game. Was tied for the game high. But Jimmy Butler, he was the best player on the Warriors through 3 quarters. He got to the free throw line 14 times and was someone that I definitely expected to bounce back after kind of, I thought, not coming out with a ton of energy in Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy was really, really good. You're right. Through 3 quarters, he had 22 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. Steph was the only other one who was in competition for best player through 3 quarters with 26 points and 5 rebounds. Those two were great through 3, and then whether it is just those miles catching up to them, their old age catching up to them, they did not have it in the fourth quarter. They could not quite summon it, and it's rare that we see the Warriors, specifically led by Steph and his individual greatness. It's rare that we see him struggle to close basketball games, because that's often when we see him at his best. But yeah, you're right. Jimmy was great through 3 quarters and over the course of a whole game, deserving of the crashing the boards honor, no doubt.
I also feel like he's someone that is going to play just as well as he did tonight in Game 7. Like Jimmy, along with Curry, honestly, like they have history of performing well in the biggest moments. And I understand that people might look at this game and say, well, how come you didn't go for 35 or go for 40 in a game like this? And I don't know, perhaps they would in the past. But I have to imagine that the Warriors are going to get the best efforts from those two players. And it's another reason why I don't know, maybe I got fool's gold here, Mark, in my hand, but I think the Warriors will win Game 7.
Oh!
I do think they will win Game 7 in Houston.
Okay. One thing that I was thinking about was Jimmy Butler in Game 7s. He's obviously had some amazing postseason performances, and I forgot that this was the way this series went, but I looked back and watched it, and looked at it. Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago, 2023, versus the Celtics. That was the year the Heat were the 8th seed. They upset the Bucks in the first round, although it was an injured Bucks team. Then they beat the Knicks in 6. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, they go up 3-0 versus the Celtics. And this was a year after the Celtics had lost to the Warriors in the finals. Celtics were odds-on the favorite to win it all. They go up 3-0. The 8-seeded Heat do. Then they lose Game 4 at home, Game 5 on the road, Game 6 at home, and then they go to Boston and win in Game 7 after having a 3-0 lead, losing the next 3, and then winning Game 7.
That's right.
And then, of course, they lose in 5 to the Nuggets in the NBA Finals. But Jimmy has been through situations where you blow a big series lead and you're staring at a Game 7 on the road, like in a situation where absolutely nobody gives you a chance. Although nobody's giving the Warriors a chance. You think they're going to win this one. But Jimmy has been through something similar to this. And the Warriors have also been through similar situations. It's just, I guess as recent as 2 years ago against the Sacramento Kings. This feels like a little more difficult, though.
It is a little mathematical. Like, obviously, I'll take the 4.5% chance that the Warriors don't become one of those teams.
That number is out the window now because it's just one game.
No, that's true. But I also have to take into account, I don't believe that the Rockets, and this might sound disrespectful, I promise it's not, and you have to respect the Rockets after what they've done the last 2 games. I guess I just don't believe that they can beat the Warriors 3 times in a row. Like, that to me is reserved for, and look, I know they've looked dominant, but to me, if you beat a team 3 times in a row in the postseason, you are flat out, and maybe this is where I'll have to eat crow, and on Sunday when we do pre and post, like, we'll just have to come out and say that the Warriors were just simply not good enough. But I do not think the Rockets can beat the Warriors 3 straight times because I don't think that they are that much better than them. I think they're both evenly matched teams. Obviously, that's why they're tied at 3. I guess I need to see it to believe it.
It is hard to beat a team three times in a row. There's no doubt. Warriors won 2 in a row. They won 3 out of 4. They haven't won 3 in a row in this series. All it's going to take is just 1. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting. 5:30 Pacific on Sunday, 7:30 local time in Houston. You can hear it right here on 95.7 The Game. Tim Roy's got the call, so we'll see.
Warriors live at 4:30 again Sunday, 5:30 tip. Rockets are hosting the Golden State Warriors for the first round Western Conference Series for the right to go to Minnesota, for the right to have a tight turnaround in Game 1 on Tuesday, essentially.
Tough.
Yeah, not an easy one, but we will have it all live for you again here on 95.7 The Game. Hopefully not a somber Sabbath, hopefully a happy Sunday, but obviously we'll have you then. I'll be talking with Dan on Warriors This Week tomorrow morning.
Real quick, you want some good news? We at least get 2 Game 7s in the first round. We get 2 of them, one tomorrow, one Sunday. As a basketball fan, that's fun. As a Warrior fan, it's a little frightening. But as a basketball fan...
Who you got tomorrow?
I'm going Clippers.
Okay.
On the road. Both road teams win the Game 7s this weekend. Lock it up.
See, this is why I hate that I like math, because I'm praying that Denver wins the game, because that means one road team should win a Game 7. And actually, to be fair, I think the majority of road teams have won Game 7s like of late. Yeah, like 7 of the last 12 have won road Game 7s. So, I don't know. Maybe that makes Warriors fans feel better. But obviously, we got you locked all weekend here on 95.7 The Game. Big thank you to everyone that has called in. Big thank you to everybody who has texted in, chimed in on our YouTube and Twitch chat powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Big thank you to our network coordinator back in studio, Cameron Williams, the man of all hours, apparently this week, working hard for us back in our Laughing Monk Studios, along with Chris O'Connell, chopping things up, making everything sound great for us. And for my broadcast partner, Mark Rennie, my name is Evan Giddings, saying so long from Chase Center. Warriors got to go to Houston, and we'll talk to you then, right here on 95.7 The Game.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos. Fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio.